You're listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Here we go. Look who we got sitting there, Roofy.
That's the first time he smiled.
Yeah, well, he had his game face on.
He had the game face on for the Chiefs. Now he's all giddy.
Jiggles. Welcome back to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast, bro. You know what it is. Tank, tell him what it is.
It is the I don't know. Are we still the self-proclaimed?
Hell yeah.
We are the best firefighting podcast, bringing the firehouse kitchen table straight to you wherever your kitchen table is. We're bringing it. Period.
Yeah, whether it's in the backwoods of somewhere making moonshine or
wherever
you're at your cousin's wedding that you're actually marrying your cousin.
He gained a few pounds.
Yeah, that's the winner for the night. That's the winner for the night. Period.
Yeah, winner, chicken dinner.
Right there. Wins it up.
Fucking Gabe, man. He's always good.
He's on point. Welcome back, bro. The self-proclaimed best fire podcast. We got a winner tonight. We got a real live one, Roof. A live one, literally a real.
You might say active
guy. Yeah, we don't get too many of those. Maybe this could be our first. Maybe it's the first of many. I don't know.
It could be the first of many.
I know. Yeah. Maybe we'll go to Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't know if there's time, but he sticks his toe in there, and he's the first guy. Maybe others will follow.
He knows how to lead the way first.
He is a great guy. I got to tell you,
Francis.
Like we're the self-proclaimed best podcast. He could be the self-proclaimed chief of department, is what I'm saying. Because more people told me that this guy is the number one guy. He's the guy. He is. You know what he is? Hold on a minute. He's the. Yep.
The goat.
The goat.
Yep. And we know for almost 20 years, or just about 20 years. So go figure that, right? And he still likes us.
He doesn't have
about that.
He can't figure out good character. That's for shit show.
Yeah. What's going on down there, Tank?
I just living it up, man. We so I hung up the phone with the chief last night. We was talking about some last minute things, and he told me, he's like, if the fire gods allow it, hope y'all are safe, hope you're effective, and do it to it and have a good time doing it. And it was probably about 4.5 hours later, boom, industrial job, had a press machine burning, and we got to get in there and get it and had a good time doing it. So it was fun stuff. The chief brought us one, so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. How's the wife?
She's wonderful. She's wonderful.
Your cousin, one of the same, right?
There's a few of us that don't. We try to stay away from that. And it's not Alabama, it's Tennessee. So
all right, I'm sorry.
Coobs is lobbing him up to himself.
Like that, right? Playing volleyball myself with a giant beach ball.
Right.
Come on, what's the matter?
I'm hitting off the tee. All right. So listen, if you guys want to get some stuff, some swag, bro, right? Hank, why don't you tell them where to get it, Tanky?
Well, get it at gettingsaltyapparel.com. We got it all. We got everything that you could ever dream of. And we happen to have a little bit of something we can play for you, and I can just show you what you would get.
If you're looking for a gift for that special firefighter in your life, then head on over to gettingsaltyapparel.com. Yes, gettingsaltyapparel.com. What do we have? Well, we carry hand-drawn original t-shirts, glassware such as mugs, shot glasses, pint glasses, engraved Arctic cooler cups, and much, much more. There's also a full line of firefighter tool bottle openers like Halligan's, nozzles, and wine bottle opener accesses too. And if you're a cigar smoker, congratulations! We have partner sauce cigar cutters and humidors. Think we're done? Far from it. We got toiletry, gear bags, koozies, a full line of hats, decals, sweatshirts, and once again, so much more. We can also personalize most of these products, and if you want discounts, hey, you've come to the right place. We got discounts on large orders for promotion dinners, weddings, as well as installation dinners. Just head on over to gettingsaltyapparel.com.
Sweet. We know that guy.
That is gettingsaltyapparel.com.
That's Big Bob.
McBob.
Yep. Yeah, so go get it. And we got a new sponsor tonight. Big Vin Diesel from Jersey. He's got a great product. We see him at the trade shows all the time. So we'll pump that one out for Vincent tonight. Great guy. Like I said, we see him at all the trade shows. He's a Paisan Roof. He's got a vowel at the end of the name,
He does. We do good.
So we're pumping it out. Tank. I want to call him Hank. It's Tank with do it. Armor Tough.
Doing it.
Armor Tough interlocking floor tiles are the best choice to replace new or aging, stained, cracked concrete, or epoxy floors, and here's why. Armor Tough Tiles comes with a lifetime, yes, you heard that correctly, lifetime warranty, and are usually installed in just 1 or 2 days, depending on the size of your station, with virtually no disruption in the operation of your station. Armor Tough interlocking tiles are guaranteed from the following: chipping, cracking, peeling, breaking, or staining. And once installed, the tiles are non-skid and non-slip. And they also meet the ADA standards for the friction coefficient, which you always love. The tiles are stain resistant and impervious to any chemicals or volatiles that we commonly see used in the fire service. And once installed, you can clean your floor the standard way, the old school way, with just soap and water. Install an Armor Tough tile in your apparatus bays, your offices, training rooms, workshops, exercise rooms, kitchens, banquet halls, or any other room. Yes, any other room in your station. Call Vince today for a no-obligation quote at 908-917-7697. Why install a breakable epoxy floor that you're going to have to replace in 5 to 10 years when you could have a floor that will last a lifetime? Drop a Halligan in an Armor Tough floor, you won't see any damage to it. However, you can't say the same about concrete or, of course, epoxy too. Join the hundreds, yes, hundreds of career and volunteer fire departments nationwide who have chosen an Armor Tough interlocking tile floor. Armor Tough interlocking tiles are half the price of epoxy and will last a lifetime without issue. Again, call Vince today for no obligation. Yes, you heard that correctly. No obligation quote at 908-917-7697.
I'm getting one for my garage, bro. You can't have the Hellcat sitting out on the concrete. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm gonna put one of those bad boys in the garage.
That does a nice job.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. It's not that expensive either. It's good stuff. And last but not least, if you absolutely have to get a question in to Chief Leeb, if you're that guy in the back of the room who does the Chief Leeb, hit us up in a super chat, bro. Throw a couple of shekels. Could be $1, could be $5, could be 10, whatever you want. And your question will get read by Tankimus Prime. All right, let's bring him in, Roofy. Bring him in. You bring him in. I got to pay attention to my keyboard here, the soundboard. So do it.
Yeah, this is very close friend of Kevin and I, FDNY Deputy Assistant Chief Francis Leeb.
There he is. Good looking, too. Good looking fella, isn't he?
Got the hair.
Still has the hair. He's got the blue eyes.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Chief?
What's up, Tank? My man, Tank.
Let's go. What's up?
I love it. Look at him.
Come on.
You're popping a cherry tonight. It's his first night. Look at it.
He is rocking the Getting Salty shirt. Those shirts are so freaking comfortable.
Yeah, they are.
In fact, I got the one that you're wearing, Tank, and I got the Firehouse Expo one, right? And like, I get people that they're like, "Do you wear anything else?" I'm like, "These things are so freaking comfortable."
Yeah, comfortable.
And these guys are the coolest. The coolest guys around. Yeah. And after this show, you're gonna have a whole bunch of more swag because that's what we do. We send out
cool. I was looking when the chief sent us his quote unquote resume, his timeline. I was looking through all the stuff he's done in his career, 30 years. And I saw kind of like towards the end, not too long ago, when he was at training, the shining star of that whole career. You know, the whole career that he did, the shining star was when he did the interview for us.
Welcome
to the Rock.
Welcome to the Rock. That's not really on there, is it?
Yes, it is on there.
Yeah,
it's on there. What are you talking about?
Now appeared on there. Listen, my two highlights are you guys coming there and doing the 4-part series, Welcome to the Rock. And when I met you guys over 20 years ago, I know you guys over 20 years
2
now.
decades. Oh my word.
Crazy.
It's unbelievable, right? You know, time flies, my brothers. It's really incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to see him when I was working in the 14th Division. He'd come up, he was in the 4-6, right? You have a few laughs.
We try to 4-6. How many times I would show up to a job?
Try to make
I saw both of you regularly in the 4-6. Yeah.
Yeah. Try to put a smile on his face.
He yelled at me one time. I forget what he yelled at me for, but he yelled at me one time.
You?
Yeah. I think for freelancing or something, probably.
Yeah.
No, you freelancing wasn't. It was probably weren't inspecting buildings. Or something.
That's what it was.
Oh, come on.
I forget what it was. It was probably BI.
I told you that story. One time I'm sitting across from Mark Ferrin, the 14th Division commander. I was just having a bagel. This is him with his coffee. Puts it down. He goes,
"Don't curse.
Tell your friend to start doing buildings." Who, me? All right.
Is he out yet?
He's on his way out.
Oh my God, we got to get him on the show. So
Yeah, I think McBride's down there now too, right? McBride, Cucurullo is covering the division commander right now. The Kooks. Before we get any further, Tank. I'm sorry, it just got away from me. For all the drunks in our, we got to do the word of the day, and the word of the day is
the anti-chauffeur.
the anti-chauffeur. So tell us about that one, Chief, a little bit, because I got my own stories from guys. I'm not
Unbelievable.
going to say who. Maslinsky.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Maslinsky now.
Brooklyn's on the board. Brooklyn's on
All
the
right,
board.
of course.
Oh, what do we got?
What do we got? Let's see.
Because he's on call.
He is on call, actually.
Yeah. A job on Montauk Avenue in Brooklyn. Yeah.
All right. I told him, listen, if he's got to go, take his phone and film the whole thing. We'll talk to him as he's going, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Safety doesn't take a break, bro. So
No.
that's how it is. But
There's personal hygiene.
I did not like to be a chauffeur because I felt like I was missing the fire. And I caught some really good fires when I was the chauffeur, and I didn't like it. So,
All hands going to work, extra engine and truck.
Yeah. So I remember I'm driving. We're coming back from a fire in Jamaica somewhere, and we get a report of a phone alarm for smoke in the area. We pull up, and it's a carpet place going stem to stern. And I'm driving, and the closest hydrant's out of service. So I'm like 2 blocks away. It's the front cover of like Fire Engineering magazine. And I think Bob Reinhardt had the nozzle, right? And I can't even like see the fire. Next thing you know, these guys are on the front, the front cover of Fire Engineering. And they didn't put the fire out, by the way. Not with hose lines because it was too far gone. But, and there were just so many stories of that. How I met Richie Wiley, my first tour with him. He's not a charter member of 270, by the way, but a really good friend of mine. And we're coming back from a fire. We stop to get ices. We're over by like 294 engine, and we get a phone alarm. And we see the column of smoke. So I drive down one way, the wrong way. We pull up. The house is fully involved. I go down and buy the hydrant. I'm annoyed. I'm driving. He comes out. You could see his gears thermally loaded, and he comes over to me. He's like, "Am I burnt? Am I burnt?" I'm like, "No, you're not burnt. And get the hell away from me. You're an idiot." So he throws his helmet down. He takes his stuff off, and I'm like, "This guy's a nut." And then and that fire they didn't put out either.
Wow, they were good at putting fires out over there. Huh?
Yeah,
South Queens.
Where is that? 27 slow? I forget where that is.
He said, I should have put the fire out, and I didn't. I should be burnt. I'm like, no, that's kind of not how it works. So to know him is to love him. I became super good friends with Richie Wiley. I'm still good friends with him to this day. He was part of our study group.
All right, hold on. Before we start, we're already we got to do the pledge, Coobs.
Yeah.
Oh shit, we got we got. All right, so Tankimus Prime, please let's get good pickup, Ruffy. Patriotic, we can't let that go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Beautiful. All right, so what were you saying, Chief? He was in your study?
Yeah, he was one of the people in my original study group, which was pretty good, which was Joe Jordan, Richie Wiley, Jim Yearsley, Tony Tedeschi, and Tommy Donnelly. We were all studying for lieutenant together. Yeah. So,
have you ever been on the receiving end of the wrath of Tony Tedeschi when he loses his shit?
Who hasn't?
That's great. You think Ruffy's got a temper? Ruff, have you ever seen this?
I know.
It's scary.
I've seen Tony, man.
Scary.
He brings his A game every tour, right?
Yeah, man.
I mean,
No.
I only know a couple people. Richie Wiley's another guy who brings his A game always. I'm like, and I would tell Richie all the time, bro, I'm just not that good. I have off days, where maybe you bring the B game, right? You're trying, but you just
A-,
yeah. But but he was always intense, like to another level.
I always felt like I drove him a lot. I always felt when I worked with him, if we did go to a job, we always made an impact. He was just always getting us in there. Like Riff used to do the same thing, get us in there somehow, and we would definitely make an impact at a job. Always with that guy. I didn't work with Ruffy long enough.
I got good Tony stories.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's go back first before we go too much forward. We go to this illustrious career here. Excuse me for a minute. So it starts as a volley at East Farmingdale from '83 until present, right?
Yes,
so
sir. I joined the volunteer department when I was 14, but I've been around the volunteer department since I'm 7. So my brother joined and introduced me to it. And, I get into the firehouse and I meet guys like my good friend Mike Kilbridge, who's been in the department. I think we might have a picture of him. I mentioned him during my firehouse keynote. So him and my brother were two big mentors. Other people that I looked up to: Ken Nitley, Charlie Trimmy, Greg James, just Joe Riley, just some great people around the firehouse that were older than me. There's so many, right? So you feel you're certainly going to miss names, but and that was where I learned about the fire service initially. Learned about the value of teamwork, as we have a really good fire in a commercial occupancy. I was not driving, thankfully, because I'm the anti-chauffeur. And yeah, I got my water tonight, guys. I got an early morning,
and you could be turning out any second here.
Yeah, that's that too.
So if it goes to a 4-bagger, you go.
Yeah, a lot of times, depending, if I'll get a phone call and I may go earlier, depending how it how it looks, what's going on.
So Chief, none of your father, your uncles, nobody was in doing firefighting. Was anybody a fireman in your family before?
No, not. I mean, my brother was in the volunteers, but nobody was in New York City. But we had so many guys that were on the job in New York City that were in the volunteers. So I got to see it and see, like, wow, these guys, these guys are really, really good firefighters. You could see they really hone their craft. That was really the difference. When you talk about whether you're a career guy and paid or a volunteer, the big difference is the paycheck. If you love the job, you love the job. If you train, you're good, whether you're in a volunteer department or you're in a career department. And the guys that are in my volunteer department, they're into it. They train regularly. They're good people. The difference is they don't get a paycheck. That really is the only
fire is fire. It ain't no less hot, right? So they're doing it for free.
Yeah.
And hats off to them.
And I've learned so much, right? So many life lessons. I've seen people that are hard workers, people that work 2 and 3 jobs to support their family. And, I always just wanted to be a firefighter. That was what I wanted to do. I've never known it anywhere else. I joke around in the volunteer firehouse. Our current chief, Scott Lewis, his children, Braden and Brandon, they want to be firefighters. And, I'd say they got no shot. That's what they're going to be wherever they go. Another guy from our volunteers, this guy Kenny Lease, his son Joe Lease, who I know is listening to the show. He's down in Fairfax now. He followed his dream, right? He's from Long Island, but he wants to be a firefighter, and he did what he has to do to go and follow the dream. And you know what? You got to applaud that. You got to love that. I contact him regularly. We were texting earlier today, me and Joe Lease, and he just loves the job, and he's just being the best version of himself down in Virginia. And they're incredibly fortunate to have a guy like that that's so into the job and loves it the way we do, right? All 4 of us on here, we just love the job. We love what we do. That's why you're still doing it, right?
Yeah.
So it's good stuff.
Like I tell people all the time, where else do you have a job where you're on vacation, you can't wait to get back to work, right? Or you call in the firehouse to see if you missed anything when you're on vacation.
If you missed a job, when I was young, if I missed a job, I would be sick.
Yeah. Well, like we say all the time, you listen on the radio. We'll take that in. We're available. right? We say that all the time, right? But you never hear-
Sanitation guys
You
doing
wouldn't have a
that. too.
sanitation guy say, "Hey, you got one more block? We're out here. We'll pick up another block of trash if you want." Yeah.
Yeah.
We say that all
Nah.
the time.
Nobody wants to miss a fire, right? You come in, the firehouse
Yeah.
smells like fire. You're like, damn it, I missed the fire.
Yeah.
You know?
But you know
Or
what's
if
even
it smells like
great?
smoke.
Even
Oh my
sitting at the
God.
kitchen table, that's at the priceless. You want to be there. You just love being there, man. Just everything about the firehouse, the rig, going to fires, everything. I give credit to those guys who chase their dreams and go to other states to get on the job. You know.
Yeah, and that's what, and that's why I mentioned him. He's a he's a good guy and he's into the job, and that's what wherever it is, right? You just got to follow your heart, follow your dreams, whatever it is that you want to do, and it matters, right? Those things matter, and it's great to it's great to see. It's great to see that.
Did the guys who was the guy who gave you put you on the application to take the test, or did you do that on your own?
So I would say the guy that probably steered me the most was Rick Welliver, who now, so his children, a couple of them, they're on the job now in different places. He's now moved down south. So he was Rick was in 292 engine, and that was before rescue was before there was a SOC battalion, right? So he would work in rescue. His career was cut short due to injury, but he was active in East Farmingdale. Again, these guys were a cut above firefighters. And now the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. His children are now, they're career firefighters down there. And it's worked out. And I know, I'm pretty sure they're into the job. They're listening to this podcast tonight as well, And so he was the guy that said, you should apply. And at first I'm like, I don't know if I'm, if I'm that good to do that, And I applied. I did well, and
look at you. You've done all right. Look at you.
I got called when I was 23 years old. I took the test. I was barely old enough to take it. I was 17 and a half years old when I took
I got called when I was 23 as well.
Yeah. And
I got called a little later. So you take the test and you get called in 92 and you go to 323 engine.
Yeah, I go to 323, and I didn't know where anywhere it was.
You had no hooks. You had no.
No, I didn't know no hooks. No hooks. So I go there, but
Single engine.
But you know what? A single engine, and you know what the beauty is, right? Every FDNY firehouse, and really every firehouse anywhere, right? There's guys there that are cut from the same cloth, and you're gonna find good guys. You're gonna learn from them, and man, I met some great guys there. Paul Strosner, John Milano, Kevin App, Vic Colucci. You think about the guys. Those were the guys that were there that I met when I first got there. Then I was fortunate. I met Tony DeSimone and Ray Longo there. And Mike Borst was my captain for a short period of time. I met Tom Richardson covering a vacation there, Jerry Tracy. And, you don't know where in your career you're going to meet people. Richardson did some amazing drills, and you just loved it. Jerry Tracy, same thing. Just they were just so into the job, and we're always mentoring the next generation of firefighters and teaching you. And my captain Gene McGowan, who was covering, he wasn't even the assigned captain there. He tells me, takes me on the first day. He's like, "Here's your advice for you. Learn something from everyone you meet. Sometimes you're gonna learn what not to do, but learn from everybody you run into." And he said, "And read something fire related every day." You know what? I have taken that advice, and for 30 plus years, I have lived that. I still, to this day, I read something or I listen to it or listen. You think about like all the podcasts and all the articles, all the stuff that's out there. There's so much good out there. All of it is important to the collective fire service, right? And as long as you're putting out relevant information that you're qualified to talk about, right? If you've never been to a high-rise fire, probably shouldn't be talking about high-rise fires. But as long as you're talking about relevant stuff that isn't going to injure or kill us, then that's good. Collectively, the narrative it's all good for the fire service. Whether you're a podcast that has 50 listeners or 50,000 listeners, it all matters and where you fit in with it.
It sticks out, not to interrupt you, but what just sticks out to me when I was thinking about this when we saw your timeline earlier before. So I covered, and I'm sure you know the same thing. When you cover around, you work in all different firehouses, right? And there's some tours that stick out to you right? Whether good or bad, in places that you didn't, hang your hat in, right? And I worked a night tour there. It had to be probably like 2004, maybe 2005. And I had 3 guys there that were really young and really into it. And I always used to drill. And I remember going out with the rig, and we hooked up and we, did the pumps. And I think, Coobs, I did Ungaro's drill. Remember Ungaro's drill? Where he used to start water, tank the pump, and then he would undo the cap to hook up the hydrant while they were flowing water, because then you would lose some water, right? You would lose pressure. And he had this whole system set up so that you would have everything set up, and then you would take the cap off, hook up the hydrant, and then start water and do all this stuff so that, they could have water while, they didn't have to shut down, even though they would lose pressure. And I remember doing, that type of drill. And Garo always used to drill on that, something similar to that. And, but it was one of those tours that I remember in 323. And it stuck out to me that they had young guys that, just what you said, you're going to get guys that are into the job, no matter, they're going to find their way to places wherever it is. You know what I mean? And then we went to, what's the restaurant over there? Brennan
Landy's?
No. Brennan, is it Brennan and the roast beef place? It's right there, isn't it? I thought it was
the pork store.
No, I got to look it up. I'll look it up. Go ahead, Chief. I'm sorry.
I don't know. But yeah, you're right. There's people that busy or slow shouldn't define you or your company, right? It's your attitude, your mindset, right? Your winning mindset. You're ready to go, and when the tones go off. Everybody can't do, a fire tour, right? No one is, right? Maybe the rescues and the squads are going to that many, but no one's going to a fire every day. But you got to hone your craft and be ready when it's time. That's what a professional is, whether you're a career or volunteer. It's just, being into the job. And I did my time there. So before I get too far ahead of me, I get a fire now with Gene McGowan, right? Kings Highway and Avenue D. I'll never forget it. Fire is out like 9 windows on arrival. First 2 engines like 283. Second engine I think is 310. Like all top shelf companies there. We wind up with a second line. We go down. There's 2 lines going down the hall, and we're getting burnt up. Right. A bunch of people wound up going to the burn center. I burnt my ears, and I'm still a probie. I remember on the way down, this guy from Rescue 2. He's like, "Hey kid, what'd you think of that?" I'm like, "That was freaking cool." And he's like, "Well, that's a 10-year fire. You could go 10 years and not see another fire like that." And I'm like, "Thank God, man, because that was crazy." I'm like, "Holy cow!" And he was right. But Gene McGowan, he was burned. But we critiqued the fire right there, and made sure that it was a learning opportunity. He was not going to squander the opportunity to train his probie. And he trained me. And again, he wasn't an assigned captain. He was covering a long-term medical leave, but he did what he had to do there. And, I've been blessed with so many people that have had that. In 323, it was Gene McGowan. It was Tom Richardson and Jerry Tracy. And both of those guys, I would then see when I went to the tryouts to go to 270 in 98. And I've got to backtrack a little bit, because when I went to Proby school, I carpooled with Tom Mingione. We then went to the same firehouse in 323. Tom would then transfer to 132 truck, and Tom was killed on September 11th. So I got to make sure that I have a shout out to my carpool buddy, to my original company buddy, to Tommy. And there's not too many days that go by that I don't think about him. So I want to definitely get a little shout out to him for sure.
Yeah, brother. Absolutely. So you went to the tryouts, and was Richardson still covering there, or did he just happen to recognize you when you went to the tryouts?
Nah, so Richardson was in 323. He was there for a cup of coffee for a vacation. He winds up going to 234 engine. He gets the spot there, and then he gets the phone call to go be the captain of 270. Jerry Tracy gets the call to be the captain of Squad 18. I go to the tryouts, which was difficult to even get an appointment to go to it. I'm going through all the evolutions, and I know what I'm doing. I guess I'm a student of my craft. And both of those guys come up to me and they're talking to me. Richardson, he's like, "Hey, you're the kid in 323, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me. I remember you would always give awesome drills, and it was great having you there." And then Jerry Tracy would talk to me, same thing. He's like, "I remember you." It wound up that Richardson decided to take me. He calls me up after the tryouts. He's like, "Yo, bro, I'm taking you." I said, I said, "Where?" He says, "To 270." I said, "Where is that?" Like an idiot.
Come on.
But it's and really, my career has never been the same since going there. The guys I worked with there, I'm still friends with so many of the guys I worked with in 323 engine. They're just great people, and someone was going to work there, and some of them did their whole career there, and they were good firefighters, and that's all you could ask for is they're good firefighters, they're good people, and like I said, Tony DeSimone, one of my probies, he was texting me earlier, and our careers crossed paths a couple times, just good stuff. And then I go to 270. I have the pleasure of a misfortune of working with Bobby Reinhardt, Pickford, right? I think he's on a bunch of times. Yeah. Mike Smithwick, Sealy, Sullivan, Witter, Smith.
Let me just read what it says on the timeline you sent me. 798, Firefighter Squad 270, charter member. FYI, Meslinski is not.
Poor Maz.
No, and he outsmarted himself. When Richardson asked him to come, so he was supposed to be a charter member, and he decided not to. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the importance of that is he's not a table member. He's not a plank holder. He's like, short, So he's not there.
He's not a charter. There can only be so many charter members.
Tommy Bone. Did you mention Tommy Bone? Tommy Bone. Right?
Yeah, Tommy Bone. Just we were the team that Richardson put together. A couple of junior guys.
Donnie Schneider,
right? Some of the guys that were in Engine 270 stayed because he let whoever wanted to stay. And some of the folks that stayed, they did an amazing job. Some of them, you think about that, we took over your company and you might have had 15 to 20 years in, and they really reinvented themselves. And I give them a lot of credit, the folks that were there. And we came in, and it was just, guys like the senior guys, like, Schneider, like Tommy Bone, like Ray Sealy, like,
I don't think Ray Sealy was a charter member, was he?
You know what?
I don't want to throw Thaddeus of Daddius under the boat, under the bus, bro.
Yeah. But the folks that were brought in, the amount that we learned from those guys, Greg Haynes.
Greg Haynes.
Greg Haynes.
He was
guy,
a good
man.
fireman.
123,
right?
120, I was going to say 175, 123.
Greg Haynes always knew where to go.
Good
it was
fireman.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
We'd show up to fully involved private dwelling, and he goes around in a window and pulls out 2 kids.
Sully was there too, right? Mike Sully was.
Yeah, Mike Sullivan. Yeah, so Mike was an Engine 270 guy who had rotated around.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he had like 3 years on the job when he went there, and did the rest of his career. He did the rest of his career in SOC.
Yeah.
Right. You think about a charmed life and just a great guy.
That's why he's so happy all the time, probably.
Yeah. Just
I love Sully.
No, I love that guy.
And the offices that we had there.
Hey, Chief, who was the guy? He ended up passing away. I forget who he was. I think he was from 123 as well.
Yeah. So Ray Sealy was not. Yeah. Sorry, Ray.
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
he was covered in 175. I used to see him when I was in 103.
Yeah, Eric Daly. Yeah. Another
good fireman.
Just an incredible amount of knowledge.
Good fireman.
These guys, like when Ray eventually did get there and Tommy Bone, they would hold court in the kitchen. They would just sit in their chair, and we would just be sponges absorbing their knowledge. It was just an incredible time to be there in that company and be able to learn from so many really great people, and so many people have impacted my career. And Ray, you're one of them. Ray's definitely one of them.
It was good.
Dude,
Man.
that had to be a tough kitchen because Ray was sharp, bro. Ray would
back
pound
then,
you.
and he could remember what he was saying at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So, it was a tough kitchen, but you know what? Ray truly gave a shit about us, and he knew how to break us in and to prepare us for everything. And we also rubbed off a little on him. He wound up studying for lieutenant. I think we reinvigorated his career to a degree. He needed to change and come in there and work with a bunch of a bunch of us younger guys or junior in our careers. I think was good for him. And he went on to have an amazing career after he got promoted. Right? I mean, forget his impact that he had in 270 and 108. You know,
he was a lieutenant. He was a lieutenant by us for a while. He finished up.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was impactful there on the younger guys as well. He's just, he's got a tough outer shell, but he was.
I love
he's a sweetheart, man.
He would do anything for any of us at any time, and he did.
He's coming on Saturday.
I wanted to mention who was the girl who just passed away for us. She was in 270.
Celia Thompson. Yeah.
Celia.
Oh, she just passed away, Celia?
She passed away.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was living down in Florida. So I think Jimmy Giovanello, who's another
Gio.
guy that worked.
Gio. I think he's in the chat, Gio, tonight.
So I think two of our members went to the funeral. I'm pretty sure he was one of them. But which is really cool that they were able to do. So she was related to Dave Dangerfield, who besides what a cool name, right, for a firefighter.
Yeah.
He's another guy that he was a late addition to the squad, not a charter member, but another guy that just knew where to go. I remember we're pulling up to a fully involved 2-story taxpayer, fully involved on the first floor. This guy, we were piloting a thermal imaging camera at the time. The whole job didn't have him. He takes the camera. He had just come from I think he was working in Rescue 1 or Rescue 3. I don't remember where he was.
3, I think.
Takes the thermal imaging camera. We're still in the rig. He puts it to the second floor where this firefighter was about to go in the window. The rig didn't even stop. He gets off the rig. He's screaming. Don't go in there. He gets over there. The firefighter doesn't go in, and the room lights up. He never spoke about it again.
Really?
Yeah.
Humble too, then.
Just a humble guy, great guy, in great shape.
He was in great shape. He was a tough dude, man.
Him and Celia taken way too young from us.
I couldn't even believe that. She was young. And she had to be tough. I know how. I can't imagine her being in that back room. It had to be a little tough for her too.
It was tough, and so they had chauffeurs, seated chauffeurs. Adam Bell.
Adam Bell. I like that.
Sweetheart. Yeah.
And Celia, they were seated chauffeurs, and Richardson came in and said, "We're not going to have seated chauffeurs. We're going to try everybody out." And
you loved that.
And that meant the anti-chauffeur.
Anti-chauffeur. Needs to hydrate.
Listen, let me just say something before we move fast from the. I had a little different story of the anti-chauffeur. I heard, and this is not me, there was a little bit of whining, complaining going on with the show when it was a certain person was asked.
Look
to
at his
drive.
face. Look at his face.
A little whining, a little carrying, a little stomping of the feet.
Describe
stuff like
whining.
that.
What's a whine?
I'm just telling you the information I got.
Solid as a rock.
Yeah.
You don't crack.
I did not want to drive. That's all I'll say. I didn't
So
want to drive.
Bill Hill. Bill Hill hated. He didn't want to drive either.
Bill Hill hated everything.
I didn't even want to go to chauffeur school. When I went to, because I just wanted to have the opportunity to go in every time I could.
Listen,
Right.
if the boss is cool with it, then that's fine, right? If there are people behind you that want to drive, some of those guys are volleys, whatever, and they're good at driving. They drive trucks. Then why wouldn't you do that? Why would you stick somebody in there? I always
thought for sure, Ruffy, for years that that Captain Murphy was going to ask us because we grew up in the neighborhood there. We knew the streets, and that neighborhood was a mess. Streets were
street,
all
place,
over.
lane,
When they put the
avenue,
Long Island
road,
Expressway,
drive, right.
I thought for sure it was. I'm like, I got like 3 years on the job. I'm not going to be a chauffeur. I don't want to be a chauffeur.
Yeah, and in the squad, like officers were really good. They knew I wanted the nozzle, and they so did everybody, right? That's duh.
Who'd you have there? Doug Sloan, right? Who else?
Leave me alone, Doug Sloan.
Yeah, so Doug, Chris Rigoli,
Oh, great guy too.
yeah,
Oh, and
Jimmy
the other
Earl
guy, the older
and-
guy, Jimmy
and
Earl.
Richardson.
Yeah.
Most of the time I worked with Jimmy Earl and Doug Sloan. They were the ones that were in my group, so I drove them a lot. And actually, I took Doug Sloan's badge number when I got promoted to, when I got promoted out of there to lieutenant. Yeah. So just again, it's just so many people that were influential in my career. But hey, you know what? I forgot. Do you guys know Warren Fuchs? Right?
No, never heard of him.
Right? Yeah, never heard of him, right? So, I met him when I was in 323. One of my first runs, we get a run into Mill Basin, and I'm like, no one's beating us back here. There's only water. And on the handy-talkie, we hear somebody talking. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And we hear like, yeah, 323. You got the fire in the back here. There's a shed going. I'm like, who is this? It's Warren, right? He's in the front. He's got his handy-talkie. He's directing us in, and we became friends ever since then. He would relocate us, and he would send us into fires all over different areas of Brooklyn. It was great. I mean, you talk about the importance of our dispatchers.
I love that
and
guy.
a guy like Warren. So I just had to make sure I mentioned Warren.
I talk to him. I talk to him every few months. He either calls me, I call him, and we bullshit a little bit.
He was on the boat trip. You had to see him on the boat trip.
Yeah, I saw him on a boat trip.
Right.
I was joking around. Everybody knows who Warren is, right?
So you'll be making a comeback now because you've been on the show. So you'll be asked back to the second annual boat trip now. How do you like them apples? Yeah, man.
I love that.
That was a good time, right?
That was great, man. That was definitely.
It was only like a couple thousand years of service on that boat. Holy mackerel!
Yep. You got a couple of known flyers here. Anyway, that you highlighted here.
Were you working for 9/11? Well, hold on. Were you working for 9/11?
Oh, right, 9/11.
No, so I was off. I was off on 9/11. I was actually bringing my son to daycare.
Wow.
And then I was in that night. So we were a month away from the lieutenant's test. So we had just started going to twice a week study groups, and we were very strict on our study group. If you didn't show up and you didn't have questions that were typed and printed out for everybody, you were out of the group. So I was going in that night. That day, it's crazy. My brother-in-law worked in the trade center. My brother's a cop. My mother-in-law was flying home to Florida that day, and then myself. And we didn't lose anybody.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
It's just, yeah. And then, we were one of only two soccer.
I was just going to say that only two. 61.
Yeah. So we wound up. Right? We were on the AB schedule until Thanksgiving, and then on your off tours, you were doing the powder runs and everything. And then they put a lot of the companies out of service initially, and we staffed rescue too, and we were for a while we were the only rescue in service, and we only went on second alarms. So all day long we just went because we couldn't go to. They said you could go anywhere you want, but not to the trade center site. So we just went from wake to wake all day long. Yeah. All day long, we just went from wake to wake, and then we eat a meal or whatever because second alarms are greater. You're not going on that many runs, it was crazy.
Really was
crazy times.
Sometimes it seems like a blur, and can you believe it's over 20 years ago? Holy shit!
No, it's crazy. And then right, the guys you work with, it's just a band of brothers, right? You never forget the people. I will never forget the people that I was working with in 270 and September 11th. And it's almost bittersweet when I left there and I got promoted, from there. But and then only a couple of months after it, I think one of you guys were working right for the American Airlines flight 587.
I was working, yeah.
Yep. And we that morning we were getting ready to go down to the trade center. It was our day to go work on the pile we were assigned, and 260 people were on board that airplane and 5 on the ground. And we went right away. As I'm responding, I remember I took out my cell phone and I called my wife and I said, "Put on the news and let me know if there's anything going on," because we heard planes overhead and we didn't know what it was. And they had scrambled the fighter jets, so the fighter jets were overhead. And my wife told me, CNN said there's fighter jets overhead, that there's no threat that they're aware of. Because we thought it was another threat, but the importance of that is
Forgot about that.
I was numb to, we were extinguishing fire, we were the bodies and whatever that was there, and it was like it was a debris fire. How I felt mentally, I was the tank was empty, and I remember going home, and I was really upset, and I was telling my wife, I'm like, I'm emotionless. Like, what have I become after September 11th? And I think, we see the chief of, I think it's Marion County, put out a 3.5-minute video today about mental health and about making sure you're okay. And you know what? It's okay to not be okay. And we have to watch out for each other. Our job, looking out for our brothers and sisters and making sure that we're okay. Someone has to look out for us. And I was emotionally numb, as I know we all were, right? And how does that reflect on our families? What do we do? We got to recognize that and talk about it and make sure we're taking the proper steps to best help ourselves and heal ourselves.
Yep.
To me,
I'm still like that a little bit. I mean, I'm still, obviously something, anybody in my family or something like that. But if I see something in the street, or if I'm, a car accident, or I don't even.
It does harden you a little bit, but like the chief is saying, it is okay not to be okay. To not have feelings about those things, because
I cry at commercials.
Not only just what we saw at the trade center, but the funeral after funeral after funeral. You become jaded by it, like going so many funerals in a row. What I remember about that fire, chief? Seeing the kids' clothing hanging from the trees, because all the
luggage.
The luggage was all, and seeing little kids' clothing hanging all over the trees. It was tough, man. That part, but everything else that you were just in. There's so many buildings on fire. It was like you didn't even know where to go.
And we took up from that, and we went right back in service, it was no big deal. And I'm just like, I remember thinking about, this is bizarre. That was a career fire, right? It was the second crazy incident that we had went to
in 2 months, 3 months.
And there was a collapse in Manhattan. I don't remember when that was, but I was working the Hammer team for that, and I responded to that with a bunch of cops. We were crawling around. It was like they were doing something with the scaffolding in the middle of the building, and we were doing that. That was like another. That was a career incident, and that too. It's just like, yeah, all right, let's take up all these little insults, and we got to recognize, that. I think it's, it's just. These things matter, right? And we got to make sure that we got to take care of ourselves, and we got to make sure we take care of our brothers and sisters. And every anniversary of that incident, I distinctly recall how numb I felt at that time.
Yep. Let's talk about the Airtrain too. You had that while you were.
I remember that. Well, first talk about what it is, because not everybody's going to know what that is, Chief.
Yeah. So the Airtrain is an unmanned, unstaffed vehicle that transports people from Jamaica Station to JFK Airport. And they were constructing it when I was there. And there was a young gentleman who he was in his young 20s, who they had hired, and he was so happy. It was his career job. He was going to do it forever. And we would go to JFK, and they would teach us about the Airtrain and the safety features, and if all the different things if something was to happen. And they were getting ready to put the Airtrain in service. And on a test run, they put subflooring on the train, and they put jersey barriers in it to simulate a full train. And they took a turn too fast. and they crushed someone that was on the Airtrain for this trial run, and it happened to be the guy that was teaching us all those lessons. We put to use all of the stuff that he taught us to try and save his life. We knew him when we got there. We knew it was him that was pinned, and unfortunately, we weren't able to save his life. But
I
the
remember
training
that.
he provided us gave us every opportunity to be able to save his life, because he cared about his job and he cared about teaching us. And they just, they didn't think that they didn't realize that the
What a
cement.
poor decision that was. My God.
Yeah, it was just.
Was he speaking when you got there? He was already dead when
No, he was unconscious when we got there. But we knew him because he was a good, he was just a good soul, a good person.
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I think the only other story from there that I think is worth sharing is we go to a commercial occupancy in the Rockaways, and it's an oil burner fire. And oil burner fire, no big deal. It gets out of the pit in a commercial building. I got my search rope. I'm good. I know what to do with a search rope. We go inside instead of doing the search rope from outside, because the inside's a huge commercial on the first floor offices. I tie off to they had a big mailbox inside. I tie off to the mailbox. It's about 15 feet from the cellar stair. I go downstairs. We find the fire. We guide the engine there. The trucks were already in there. They had tried. They ran out of air, so now we're in there. We get the engine there, and now it's time to go back up. And I'm following the search rope up. I get to the end, and it's lights out. It is lights out. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, all right, stay calm. Now the vibrator's going off. I'm like, which way's out? I'm like, I can't believe, I put the search rope in a clear atmosphere, and now here it is. It's banked down.
Yep.
So I just calmed down.
Well, what are you, 50? You're 15 feet.
Yeah, so I'm 15 feet from the door to the cellar, right?
In what direction?
But I'm like 50 feet to the exit.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
And I have no idea which way, right? Because I wasn't really paying attention. So I'm just quiet, and I'm like, okay, let me think about this. And I hear the engines, I hear the rigs, and I'm in the hallway. So I'm like, all right, I knew how many, I knew what I'd passed, and I just make my way out. And fortunately, I picked the right way. But it's just that. You always have to have your guard up. You always have to be thinking about that. Here I am. I know what I'm doing with the search rope, I think, and I set it up in a poor area. And as soon as I come out, I'm like, boy, this job humbles you so often in seconds, right? Yep. And I got lucky, and I didn't share that story for years. I was embarrassed about it, right? And now I share it often, and just like, hey, make sure that area is going to be clear. That when you come out, that you think about all those things. Think about the next 15, 20 minutes of the fire while you're down there, and what's going to happen. It's just, again, it was. If
you've had a nickel for every guy who's been on this show who said, I walked in, I wasn't really paying attention to where, because it was crystal clear, right? You weren't taking marks on things, and then you went whatever. You went another 100 feet. It went totally lights out, and now you have no idea even how to get back to, because you weren't paying attention on the way in, because it was no issue, not even with the search rope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many little lessons like that, right? And it's and that's why you gotta read, you gotta be into the job, you gotta be paying attention, and be a consumer of the products that are out there, and
what the biggest thing? Don't ever take anything for granted. I was asked one time as a chauffeur to shut the utilities off in the basement, open the door, go on it. Chief, it's as clear. I don't have my mask on, clear as day. I get over to the gas meter. I turn the gas meter off. I turn one step, and it's zero visibility. I was like amazed getting down there to find that. I'm like, holy shit. Thank God I had told somebody upstairs I was going down there. He called out to me and started banging on the door, and I followed the way out, but in a second, I took it for granted. And that was it, bro. Didn't have my mask on, and it was zero visibility, and I'm in a basement. No idea where I am. So it happens in a second. As long as you
Yeah,
learn
so,
from it the next time, you know not to do that again. To get away with
Yeah,
it.
so
You know,
and I'm like, the search rope's only 150 feet. I'm like, I know that the trucks already went in. If it was, like the trucks in the Rockaways are good. They know what they're doing, and they had a hard time finding it. So I'm like, all right. So I set up inside the building. Don't set up the search rope inside the building, right? I mean, we know that, but I said I want to make sure I have enough rope. I had enough rope, and then I almost ran out of rope myself, right? I almost reached the end of the line. So
Almost hung yourself.
yeah, exactly. So lesson learned,
Lesson learned, mother effer.
Yeah.
All right, so you go and get promoted in your study group, your illustrious study group with Chief Jordan and company, and you wind up with. Oh, wow. Look at that guy!
There he is. Look at him.
Wow! Look at that young baby face. Look at him.
Oh my goodness!
And you go to
what year was that? Did you go there?
02?
Yeah. So that pitch is probably 2003, 2004.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't remember seeing you there. I was already gone myself.
Yeah. So I got promoted to lieutenant 20 years ago today, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're an officer for 20 years,
which is amazing, right? I mean, it's such a privilege to be an officer in the FDNY. We have a deep bench, right? We have a very deep bench.
That's the best line. That was a great line.
We are so blessed that we have so many people that love the job, are into the job, and will do whatever it takes, right? We have to tell our firefighters to slow down or stop, right? We're eternal optimists, and it's just incredible. We're just so fortunate that we have that, and
no doubt about that.
Yeah, I'm truly blessed. The people I've worked with, working with you guys a couple times in my career, and it's good stuff, man. It's.
Where did you get assigned? Did you get assigned to what division? The 14th?
I got assigned to the 14th division. Yeah, I got assigned to the 14th division, and they put me UFO in 251.
Oh, the last outpost.
My first tour, and I'm like, and you know what? Like I said, every firehouse has great people. That was no exception. Great people there, but I was miserable. And then even I was miserable. I tell people the first year as a lieutenant, I hated it. I'm like, I studied myself out of a good job. What did I do? I don't know the characters around the kitchen table. It's the same circus. It's just different clowns. So the inside jokes aren't funny because I don't know who they are,
And when you're the boss, it's a little tough, especially when you're first learning to be a boss, to, make sure you don't overstep, being too friendly or whatever.
Yeah, and they don't know me, right? So they're
right.
like,
they're not trusting you. Right, exactly.
And I would come in and as you see, I looked kind of young. So they'd be like, who's this young guy? And they want to know your pedigree. Where'd you work?
And how much time you got?
But I've seen you guys working and seen you firefighters, and they'd be like, I'm like, hey guys, we're gonna drill. What's this guy gonna teach us? And I'd be like, I don't know, maybe I won't teach you anything. Maybe you're gonna teach me something. So I had gone to a couple of drills at the Long Island Railroad. I learned about the M7 rail car and some of their newer cars. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna drill on rail cars. Anybody know anything about them? And it was crickets. So the next thing you know, we're drilling, and I won them over. I'm not looking to hurt them. We're gonna just gonna be better. We're all gonna be better at the end of the day. And who could complain about that?
Right. So how'd you find a spot in 324 then?
Well, so Richie Wiley, who was UFO in 324, the 4-6 asked him to come to 136.
Oh, that's right. He went to 136.
Yeah. So he says, and I got my buddy who would love to come to 324. So that's how I wind up in 324. He gets the spot in 136. I wind up in 324, and all seems to be getting right in the world again. I start learning.
You're happy again.
Huh?
You're happy again.
I'm happy again. I know the people. I'm I'm working with some great people there. So who could
hand in hand with Chief Steve over there. They're with the division.
Yeah, and there's some of Mark Bassinet, Jerry Lee, Gary Crest, and Katie Couric in that picture. I'm in there, and then in the middle between me and Katie Couric is
Oh, it's Katie Couric. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, so that was during the U.S. Open. So we covered the, we were first due at the U.S. Open, and so in between me and Katie is my good friend Ed McDonough, who was a firefighter there, and Ed, I convinced him to study for lieutenant. Fireman's fireman, was a Marine, just the guy that you want to study to be a boss. He studies, he gets promoted. He hates his first year, like I said. He winds up in Harlem, and as a lieutenant, he's going to start studying for the captain when he's diagnosed with cancer. And
goodness gracious.
he dies. He passed away when he's 49.
Sucks.
So we'll talk about him in a little bit, but the guy to the right of me there, Dave Minerally, another Diamond Dave, just another great guy. He only had 3 years on the job when we went down to Hurricane Katrina. After one of our company functions, he was hit by a car and was killed.
Holy shit.
Where
did he get killed?
So we at a company function, we put him in his room. We took his keys because he was drinking, and like all of us, and sometimes we try and protect our people, but sometimes even what we do, we're not always successful. And then at his services, they gave us the campaign ribbon for Katrina, and we presented it in the firehouse to his family. Just a great family. His brother's awesome. Just good people. I mentioned Ed McDonough, right? So I'm wearing his memorial shirt. He was a lieutenant in 37 engine, 37 and 40. Life begins at 40.
Wow.
A great firehouse. He absolutely loved it there. And when he passed away, that company, they couldn't do, even when he was sick, not even when he passed away, but just great people worked there. And at that point, when he did pass away, I was already up in 76 engine in the area, so I knew some of the people up there. But just amazing people. Just another great firehouse, like I said.
How was that turning out of there? Like with the traffic right in front from the highway? Is that a pain in the ass?
They had their own light. You press a button, the light turned red.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough sometimes when you came back to quarters because the light would turn red and the cars would all want to beat the light,
Right.
But it was
the guy Jerry there, is he the guy that they used to dare to eat and drink shit like a whole gallon of milk or a whole pizza pie?
Or a whole crave case of White Castles.
Yeah.
He's
crazy.
Hey Jerry, if you could eat the whole crave case, all 32 burgers, we'll pay for dinner for you tonight.
He did the whole thing, same thing with a gallon of milk, right? They dared him to drink the whole gallon of milk.
Yeah, it didn't matter what it was. I mean, he was up to the challenge.
He's funny.
Yeah, he's a good guy. His son's on the job now. Jerry's a good guy. I enjoyed working with Jerry. Good heart. He's still, like I said, he's still working. Good person.
Funny.
Yeah. Oh, he is still working. Yeah, I think he went out there somewhere. Like,
he's out in Eastern Queens. I don't want to say the company because I'm not sure, but he's still he's still working.
He was a funny guy, man. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he is a good guy, man. He's just
like you said, good-hearted guy, but just so funny, like.
Well, you got to see a lot of those guys, Coobs, right? I mean, you got to.
Yeah, I was working in division with my brother. I thought those guys were good guys, man. They got some work over there going into Corona.
Yeah, hell yeah.
We caught plenty of good work there, especially as a single engine.
Yeah.
I remember we go to a good fire on like 63rd Drive. I go up. We got report of fire on the 5th floor. I go in. I tell the guys we got a well hole. Start a line. We got a job. We go up. I go in. I force the door. I find a lady in there. I pull her out. By the time I get her out, they got the line up there. We were a 5 firefighter engine, so one of the guys took the victim down. We put the fire. We had water on the fire by the time anybody else got there.
Because they had a satellite there, right? Too.
And we had the satellite, so that's why. When I got promoted out of squad, they made me a mini Halligan. So it was great. this Halligan was about 12 inches long, and it had a lot of meat behind it. So I could force an apartment door with that faster than you could use a key. It was great. The technique. It was all about the technique and the leverage. And so I would use it all the time. So a lot of people didn't like that so much.
Tigers.
Tigers.
Yeah. Tigers. Yeah. So it was So it was funny. They nicknamed it the Leeb again instead of the Halligan.
Oh, that's what it says here. The Leeb again.
And I loved it. And as a first engine officer, I'm like, I get to do it all because, listen, I'm not waiting for somebody to force a door that I can force, that I know how to do. I practiced enough to and I'm not waiting for anybody, And I would do that. I would do that often, stuff like that. So,
what about the Leeb box?
Oh, so Jack Kleehouse always sent stuff from the 4.6 for drill material and stuff, and between him and I was always making something to hang up, or I would write up something about a fire I heard about, or the anniversary of a fire somewhere else in the country, or one of ours, and I would bring these downstairs and put them on the table, and they didn't like throwing them out with the papers. So it was so much that they just made a box, and it was the Leeb box. Everything that I produced went there. So today you could consider that the version of the tips from training and safety. But I always did that, and it was because I first learned that from Jack Kleehouse, because Jack Kleehouse, every tour he worked, he sent something out, usually via fax, or he would deliver it every time to make you a better firefighter. And when he would ADC, he would come over and he'd come in the office in 324, and he would stay in there and talking about fires that he had till 3-4 in the morning. You talk about like a guy who's all in.
We're this close. If you got his number, push him over the line. Will you?
Oh yeah, no, he'll listen. He's coming on here at some point. I can't believe he hasn't yet. Like you talk about like another guy I learned so much from. He talked to me about the wall bomb fire, which he didn't respond to, but he responded the next morning. Like his stories are all captivating. He has and story, right? So experiences to a large degree are transferable. When somebody wants to tell you a war story, listen to it, because then that experience to some degree becomes your experience. And a guy like Jack Kleehouse delivers a story and a message like few others. Yeah. And you just sit there and you listen. I don't care how tired you are. I'd be like, Jack, we just got to stop. Actually, I didn't call Jack. I said, Chief, we got to stop for a minute because I got to get some caffeine.
McVeigh said the same thing. He
some people are just great storytellers, man.
Yeah, and he just went to so many incidents and
he remembers everything. McVeigh says he remembers everything.
Yeah, and to this day he does, right? He sends
Kevin stuff every day.
Every couple of days he emails me with new stuff. It's just he's so much still into the job, man.
Yeah, he's just a
great guy.
Great people. Great, listen, at that time all the chiefs that I worked with there, all great guys, all super into the job, just really good stuff. And then a lot of them were there when they were there for a very long time. Even when I came back, when I came back as a chief, Vinny Mavaro was still there. Steve Morrow had moved on to the 15th Division, but like the people I learned from, Mavaro, Morrow, Kleehouse, I mean, just crazy. And then
Mavaro was no fan of the squad, though. I don't know what that was all about. He's just no fan. Didn't like us.
Well, I mean, he's just
right.
he's just, but you know how he is. He just didn't want any freelancing. That was all.
Yeah.
What is that? What is freelancing?
I don't know.
You don't know because you didn't freelance.
See that? If you had done it, you would have known.
Yeah.
I play by the rules.
Yeah, but just learned a lot from those guys. I said Mavaro was still there when I came back as a chief, And this is a funny story about him. So I'm covering around, and I'm not looking for. I want a spot, but I'm not technically looking yet. I'm still new. And he gets hurt at a fire where he had to use the rebreather. He was the rebreather chief, right? The extended duration. Yeah. So, so I go and visit him at Booth Memorial Hospital. I'm working in the 5-2 Battalion, and I come there, and I'm like, "Hey, Vin, how you doing? I just want to check up on you." And he looks at me, and he's like, "You covering chiefs are all the same. You're a vulture." I'm like, Vin, I'm your friend. I said, "You know what, Vin? I came here to see if you want to ride. Go F yourself." And eventually I wound up with a spot in the 4-6. And I love Vinny Navarro. He's a great guy. And another guy that I've learned a ton from. And, you know, having the satellite in quarters in 324 was nice. And, you know, I was a firefighter in quarters with the 13th Division. And now I'm a lieutenant in quarters in the 14th
that's
Division.
pretty funny.
I know the deputies. So if we go and they don't need a line, if there's no water supply,
You're gonna get out of there.
we're going to get a hand.
Oh, you're gonna get to work.
We're gonna get a hand line. So the guys were joking around. They'd be like we're squad light. We're gonna, you know, get a line.
Squad light.
Yeah. So
it does pay to know the chief, that's for sure.
and I work with great guys there. Matty Linitz was just a great firefighter. I'm glad I met him later on in his career because he was a wild man when he was younger. You know, Danny Drolet and Ski and Smalden, like professional chauffeurs. And Ski's son is on the job now, right? He just did well on the captain's exam.
Wow.
He's in a busy place too. Where the hell is he? 170 or 113 or something like that?
I should know where he is right now. And
I forget.
And I don't. Hey Tank, how you doing there, buddy? You all right? You hanging in?
Doing good. I'm soaking it all in, baby. Listen, I'm just taking it all in. I'm learning.
I'm just making sure. I got to check in on my buddy over there.
Hey, you ain't gonna find
smiling.
anybody.
I see a smile on his face, bro. I think
You
he
ain't
has
gonna
a
find
little
anybody in the
jitters.
world right now better than me.
He had a little jitters in the
I'm
beginning.
happy.
He was a little scared. He was a little nervous. He's fine.
I'm good.
Yeah, and then, you know, Jeff Ray working with him, right? Just to, you know, you talk about Jeff Ray, the guy in the division that kind of holds it all together. Some of the firefighters, right? They run the fire department more than people realize. I mean, obviously, I realize it. I know how, you know, how it is. But
he was doing the assignments too, right? He was doing the assignments, wasn't he?
He did everything, and he ran it by Ferran, right? So Ferran's
but the thing is, that's a powerful position there. You know, you decide where a guy goes or he doesn't go. You know?
Yeah. No, it's
like the Pope.
Yeah,
and you never know. You never even know what hours Ray worked. Jeff Ray, like, is Jeff working today? I don't know.
It was mission centric.
Yeah, right.
It was all about the mission, right? If the mission's not done, you know, then we're gonna have a problem. But he would get the job. He would get the job done. And and from my time in 324 to my time even as a chief in the 4-6, a guy like Mark Ferran, right? Mark Ferran is one of those guys. He knows to do the right thing, like instinctually. I don't know anybody that is as good as instinctually doing the right thing as he is. And he would call me up. Hey Frank, how would you handle this? And I would say what I would do, right? And then he would tell me what he's going to do, right? Because I was wrong. And he would explain to me why he was going to take the action. And he did that. And I recognize now that he was mentoring me. And it was just incredible. And here's all you need to know about Mark Ferran. So he was there when Dave Minerly passed away. But I was on deployment to him. So we went after Hurricane Harvey. We were deployed to Harvey in Texas. We came home for 2 days and redeployed to Florida. And that was supposed to be another 2 weeks. While I was there, I was on like the 4th day there. And I got notified. That my sister passed away. He came to my room. He spent the whole night with me.
Really?
Just talking. I was on the next plane home in the morning. He left the deployment early to come to the funeral.
Wow. Yeah.
Again, I'm blessed to have the experience that I've gotten from Mark Ferran. As you go through your career, every day you're a better version of yourself, and you pick up different pieces from people.
No doubt
I've picked up so many pieces from him,
I bet you my brother taught you how to smile, right?
I think I taught him how to smile.
You did. Oh, look, he's in the chat. Ferran always had final say in assignments. Oh, Chief Cool is in the chat. Look at him.
Yeah. So Jerry Lee is in engine 313.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jerry
So
Lee.
somebody just texted me to let me know that he's in engine 313. So I'm appreciative of that I got that.
He was at my brother's retirement, and I took them out to dinner one night, all the chiefs and my brother. He loves to tell fire stories, friend. All day long, he sits there and tells you fire stories. I say, "Hey, you coming on the show?" No, I can't do that.
Yeah,
he just sat telling fire stories for like 2 hours.
Yeah,
he reminds me of a Clee House. Like they're kind of the same cloth, right? I mean, when it comes to the job, like
he was in busy places too.
My God,
12.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
He was a busy.
Yeah.
I'll get him. I keep telling him.
It's just amazing, right? And at a fire, he just knew what to do.
Yeah, he was pretty calm, man, all the time. He made everybody else calm.
He'd be lurking behind you, right? Because I had a mobile command post, right? I was always on the move. I'm doing a 360. I'm going here. I'm going there. And he'd get there and he'd be like, "Frank, you got to stay still. No one knows where you are." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I got to do that." He's like, and he would do the whole size up and then he'd come and talk to me. And just added calmness to
he was always a calm guy, man.
Yeah. So
you know what his best saying was? I keep forgetting. We got to act like you've done this before. He used to say that to the guys all the time. Guys, act like you've done this before. So we got a T-shirt. We got to get his address and send it to him.
and for your brother, for Steve, I would always tell him where we're going for drill. I'm in the firehouse with him. So his method, right, of checking up on companies was unorthodox a little bit, but people drilled when he was working. They'd call and be like, "Is he working?" I mean, why? Because you're not going to drill today? If you like, how about put a little bit of effort into other things, right? It takes more effort to not drill than it does to drill, right? So it's very simple things. So yeah, very simple things. So yeah, John Esposito started in 324.
Yep.
As well. So yeah. So all good
Maybe
stuff, right?
That's where you got to go if you want to be a big
Our current
wig.
chief of operations started in 324.
6 degrees of separation.
He's in the chat. I seen him in the chat. He's in the chat.
He is. You know what I'm thinking about? As he's in the chat and you're sitting here, I'm like, I was sitting in the trailer at the Rock at SOC, learning all those things next to the guy who's now what is the chief? He's the chief of operations, you said? And
Esposito, yeah.
So
he was in squad 18, right? At the time.
Yeah, I'm sitting there talking about nonsense as a fireman with him, and now he's both of you guys are top dogs over here. Look at him.
Yeah, and you look at I mean, listen, he's had a good career path, and I've known him since he was in squad 18. Now, I didn't know him well when he was in 18. I knew of him, knew of his reputation, because I worked a lot in 18. When they formed the squads, I worked a lot in squad 18 because they didn't have any chauffeurs.
Oh, you loved that.
The anti-show.
You're the anti-chauffeur.
Yeah, we haven't had an anti-chauffeur in a while. So I would go and work at 24 in squad 18 driving, and my relief would be Joe Vaccaro, my 24 partner. I would say, "You guys got to get some chauffeurs."
I remember
Squad
him.
18 had a lot of truck guys.
Vaccaro.
Right.
But it was a great place. It was a great place to work. We'd go. 18 was, and they'd go out for the meal, and I'd be in the rig, they'd be inside, and the tourists would all come up to you. They want to take pictures of you in the rig, and they'd ask you for directions, and I'd be like,
I'm not from around here.
They didn't understand that I didn't know where I was. I wanted to tell them, like, I'm just as much a tourist as you guys are here, but I usually didn't know where I was. I didn't know where I was going when it came to driving all that much, but yeah, just great stuff. And I mentioned in 324, I went down to New Orleans for Katrina, and I come in for a night tour. This is the benefit of being in the division. And they say, "Hey, you want to go down to New Orleans for Katrina?" I'm like, "Shit, yeah." I'm like, "When?" They said, "Now." I said, "But I'm working." They said, "Don't worry about that. Go home now. Get your stuff. You got to be at JFK Airport at 11 o'clock. I leave. I go home, tell my family I'm going for 2 weeks. I pack up because my wife had known I'm watching on the news, and I'm like, "I wish I could go. I want to go help." and now I'm like, SOC might, if SOC sends people, I can't go because I'm not in SOC anymore. And I'm like beside myself. So now I have this opportunity to go, and the experience down there was just incredible. And Dave Minnerly, who I mentioned, he went down there. So here's all you need to know about the quality of the New York City firefighter from the diversity of our firefighting forces of what we do. And they gather all 300 of the firefighters, and it's the IMT that gathers us together. I had no idea what the IMT was, just this bunch of guys. I knew a lot of them. They were senior chiefs. I'm there, and they say, all right, here's what we got to do. We need 2 people that know how to fix a roof, because we're in this all-girls college, and there are lots of problems with it. We didn't have food. So 2 people raised their hand. We need 2 people that know how to cook for large groups. 2 people raised their hand they're commercially trained chefs. We need someone that knows how to do air condition repair. 3 people raised their hand. We need somebody, no questions asked. We need somebody who knows how to hot wire a car. 2 people raised their hand. We need 2 people to go siphon gas. 2 people to go find food. Within 24 hours, we had an air-conditioned building that was up and running, and we were eating gourmet meals out of whatever people went and took out of places. So we were like Noah's Ark, and never ever underestimate the ability of a New York City firefighter, because we can and will accomplish any mission that we need to accomplish. There's times like I'm in awe of it, and I don't know why, because it just happens time and time again. We are eternal optimists. That's who becomes firefighters. It's the chief's job to not be so optimistic, and at some point say, we got to back out. Right. I want my firefighters to, I want to get after it. I want to go through that brick wall. Right. But I want my officers, and as you move up, I want your risk tolerance to go down. The top of the pyramid needs to have a smaller risk tolerance, because it's at the end of the day, if I'm on scene, it is my responsibility to make sure my firefighters that are on scene go home to their families and loved ones and their firehouse. And if you've been involved in a line of duty death, and I know you two have, you get that. You get that more than anybody else. And it's why I have always, and I still do, I take the training and safety of our members, particularly in my position now and my 2 previous positions. I take it personal. I lose sleep over it, because I want to know, how can we be better? What can we do to make sure that next time that firefighter doesn't get a broken leg, that doesn't need stitches, that doesn't lose his life, whatever it is. How can we be better? And that's tracking small failures, being a high reliable organization. There's a lot of components to that. There's a lot of layers of that onion to unpack to make sure that we're doing that.
Yep. When I went to work with my brother the last 2 years, I got to see how much responsibility a chief actually has. And at the end of the day, he's responsible for those, how many hundreds of guys, depending on how many units are on the scene, getting those guys home. You don't realize that when you're the guy, when you're in the squad, and you're in the building. Give us 5 more, give us 2 more minutes, chief. We got it. Don't, like you said,
we're eternal optimists.
Right.
I'm listening to the video of a fire, right? And you hear them banging on the door, right? And I'm watching the video, and it's like, Chief, 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. It's a series. Now, I'm not a math wizard, but you start adding up all these 2 minutes, right? At some point, you got to say, okay, we have to figure out, I get it. And you know what? And I like to get after it as much or more than anybody out there. But my responsibility to pull you out or make sure you're safe, I'd rather pull you out 20 minutes early than 1 second too late.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And,
a good line,
especially when we have searches done, it's just making sure that we're, that we're doing it right. So safety and aggressive, they go together. And sometimes, somewhere along the line, that message seems to have been distorted. Like, you can't be an aggressive interior firefighter and be safe. Yes, you can. They're not
That is
mutually
true.
exclusive.
That is true. That's thought like that.
Yeah. So, like, you get off the rig, but fasten your waist straps. That's not going to make you less aggressive. It
Right.
takes a second. Right? What it will do is it'll make you safer on the fire ground because you're not going to be entangled into anything.
Yeah.
You know how
And they
easy
can pull
those
you
straps
out.
get caught on a bicycle?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my goodness.
Right? So make yourself hard to kill and be aggressive, because if we have to dedicate a lot of resources to getting a firefighter out of trouble. Right?
Chief Daly said balls with brains.
Yeah.
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 So we just
perfect.
gotta,
The difference between aggressive and reckless, I mean, you have to, you could be aggressive without being reckless, without compromising. Just little things you could do, like you said, to be aggressive safely.
yeah, it's
As
just
safe as you can be in a fire environment.
as safe as you can be. It's right. It's we want to make ourselves hard to kill.
Yeah.
Right.
I have one question for you, Chief. When they're asking guys to raise their hands, at what point did you raise your hand? What did they ask? Hey, we need a guy that, and you're like, which one was that for you?
I have zero talent. So I was on the team that went and went through the stores and picked up whatever we could find for food.
All right.
Yeah, but then I eventually, because I was a satellite officer, what a scam this was, right? So we wound up setting it up where they had a satellite in New Orleans, which they needed, which was great. So my team and myself, we just went from fire to fire throughout the city. It was fantastic. And the New Orleans firefighters, like, just incredible people. They didn't know where their families were or whatever was going on. It was whatever was going on in their families, they were there driving us until we learned the areas. We set up a whole communication system. As soon as we got there, we were going to fires right away. And it was funny because when we had our communication set up, we were given 1075s over our radio in New Orleans. I saw New Orleans chauffeurs draft from the street. I saw them draft from a milk truck. We were on the top of a building when I was there, and we got hit with a Bambi bucket as we were trying to save a structure. We had the news coming out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we get a report. We're listening to the news that night, but we hear the fire department did a great job saving this building in the historic Garden District. We just got lucky that the block ended, kind of, and big enough. We weren't
big enough avenue.
We didn't have enough. We didn't have enough water. We didn't have enough people there, and we got lucky, and we saved like a building that was worth a lot of money, apparently. But one of the last buildings that did burn on our block. What a shame. We were in there trying to prevent it from jumping from the one building to the other building, and we were unsuccessful. It had all the walls everywhere. It was filled with antique clocks.
Wow.
And they all burned down, unfortunately. The whole building. But it was just the experience there. The 2 weeks I was there is just an amazing experience.
Yeah, it would have been a real bitch if at the end of that they would have said, all right, the rest of you guys who didn't raise your hand, you're all going to be chauffeurs now. You're all going to drive now.
Yeah, that's right.
You got to drive.
That doesn't go well for the anti.
Oh.
I can't believe you keep hitting that same button over and over again.
My wife marked it for me. I told you.
Oh, you got it marked up.
Yeah, she put the little tags on them now. She's all right, my old lady.
All right, we got to move along just a little bit.
All right, well, let's go to all right, so you become captain of Engine 76.
Where were you assigned? You were assigned up there, Chief?
I was assigned to 76 in this, in the 3rd Division. Again, great people that worked there, great time there. So I scored well on the Chief's test. And so actually, Chief Kleehouse wanted me to come back to Queens and be the captain of 136.
Really?
Yeah. So I call Sweeney Bob and say, hey, Chief, he was in favor of that. He was going to allow it to happen. But then he said, when you get promoted to chief, you're going back to Manhattan. I said, you know what? I'm going to stay in Manhattan. And I joked around. I said, I'm going to come back and be a chief in the 4-6. That was what I said, right? It's the only time a prediction in my career has come true exactly how I thought it might. But I worked with, great officers in 76, Rob O'Brien, Tim Ginley, Glenn Coleman, Eddie Meehan in Ladder 22, just a hard charger. I met Jimmy Hodgins in the 3rd Division there, who would eventually go to training, and I would work with him. Paul Jirac, a 20-year guy in that firehouse, great guy. So they put me in 76 because I did well on the test. And the battalion commander, Holtzmeyer, he comes in, and he comes into the office. He sits me down, and he's like, I don't know you. I don't know who you are. I don't know why you're here. You're a headquarters guy. I'm like, a headquarters guy? Like, what are you talking about? I go and I do, he's happy with the job I do. And I learned that from him through the time I'm there. But the day I get promoted, he comes up to me and he said, I read you all wrong on day 1.
Nice.
Like, you were such an asset to this firehouse. I'm so happy you were here. And I'm like, he did 40 something years on the job. His son's now a battalion chief. I don't know. I'm not sure where.
How long were you there, Chief? How long did you work there for?
Not long. I barely finished my cup of coffee there. One of my last tours there, I think it might have been the last tour, we caught a great 3rd alarm. The fire there was a ton of fire. That's what I mean by great 3rd alarm, right? There was fire everywhere. And all the units were delayed. So we operated for a while by ourselves. Actually, it was us and Captain Roberto from 26 Truck. We were the only 2 units on scene for a very long time. Units were blocked in from cars and stuff. The congestion up there was difficult. But again, even there, I work with so many great people there. I wasn't there long enough. I mean, I truly enjoyed being I loved being the company commander, right? To be able to mold my team, my company, and be proud of them. It was great. And so many of the people I work with there, just like in other places, they went on to be bosses. Paulie Franco's a lieutenant. There's a couple of other people that are now lieutenants and stuff. But just a great time there for sure.
And then you go back to the 4-6. You're a prophet there, bro. How'd that happen?
How these things just have a way of happening, right?
Did you go straight to the 4-6?
Well, so I didn't go straight to the 4-6. I was UFO in the 4-9 for a little while. So I mentioned, that's a great picture. So that's obviously in the 4-6. And that is I mentioned Scott Lewis earlier, the chief of my volunteer department now. That's his 2 kids. And they're future firefighters for sure. They have no shot to be anything else. Like I tell all young kids, I said, there's a lot of ways to help out in the fire service. Go and be a fire protection engineer. There's so many different things. Get an education. Go be a structural engineer. All these different things. Go get that education and then come back and do that. So that's a great picture to put up there because those kids are going to love the job, just like we are. It's good stuff. So I'm UFO in a 4-9. I'm there for a while, and then Ferran tells me, you got to pick a spot because he knew I wanted the 4-6. He says you got to commit to one or the other, the 4-9 or the 4-6. So I left the 4-9 at that point, but the brothers and sisters in 312 in with the 4-9 just really good. The company's in the 4-9 battalion, 154 and 307, and and then the Woodside Warriors. They're just, those guys are squared away. They do a great job. I loved going there. I know if I went to 325 and 163, I was gonna see a good drill. They would invite me for a meal. Just all great people. 263 and 117. Jim Yearsley, lieutenant in 117. Great friend of mine, great fire officer. I remember in the 4-9, some of the chiefs there saying, if I had 20 Jim Yearsleys, I would be in good shape. And you talk about like an old school guy, just a great, great guy. And just, yeah, again, all these places have good people and that were into the job and well trained. And
What year was it when you went to the 4-6?
So probably I got promoted to battalion chief in
11.
April of 11. So probably about 13, somewhere around there. And I had some crazy fires in the go figure, right? Had some crazy fires there. I had the Lady of Sorrows Church. And so this fire is in the middle of the night in January, Christmas decorations just before Sunday Mass in a predominantly low-income neighborhood. The church is the center of their universe. And I really got to understand this after the fire on how devastated this community was. And I actually visited the church about 3 weeks ago. It is beautiful, the job that they did redoing this church. And it's because, and I had seen it during the construction and stuff. And it's just how, when we do a good job, how much it matters to the community, right? And we saved this. And, I was the incident commander there. 289 and 138 were first due. Jeff Meister was the captain in 289, and he was working that night. And they got in and they got after it, and they did a good job. We put water in from the front above the rose window. I had Red done. And
I was in that. I was at that job.
All the tactics, and we transitioned to the tower ladders, and we were pretty quick to do that. The ceiling height from we were up on the mezzanine level on the choir loft, and it was 60-something feet from there to the top. And I realized, even though I read everything that had been published about fires in places of worship, I did so much research after that I was so much better prepared from all of that, from what I did, that I wound up writing several articles for that. I've taught several classes on fires in places of worship, and I was the key author for our FDNY fire in place of worship document that we now have published. And and that was all from just being a student of the fire service and reading. Dunn had some information on that. Brannigan had a little bit, but there wasn't a lot written on it. But I knew enough to keep the troops safe. And it was an amazing fire. It was out the rose window on arrival. Yeah, just an incredible fire. And the guys and girls there did just a great job. So yeah, that's one fire. Twice in the 4-6. The ones I always said I want to give a third on arrival. And once, so be careful what you ask for. And I pull up to a building, and we gave a third on arrival because it was in 3 buildings. And just our folks did just an amazing job keeping it to a third alarm. And that was a row of attached, like Canarsie style tenements, walk out first on the first floor in the rear, the cellar level. And then the second time I was in the 4-6, responded into the 4-9s area, and I get there, and immediately as I pulled up, the first chief was already there, but I'm like, I'm like, transmit the third alarm. They're like, you mean the second? I'm like, no, I mean the third. Because I was around the block, and I saw that the houses on the other block were on fire. So the first due chief, Lavin was the chief. He was doing a great job, but he was unaware of the other structures that were burning. I was able to see it because I came in from a different.
I was in Corona too.
No, so boy, that was in the 4-9s area. So I'm not even. I don't even remember exactly where it was, but it was probably in closer to 312s area. It was probably over. I would think it was probably over there.
I don't remember that one.
Too bad you weren't working the night we had the church fire, and Patty Lee would still have the church standing next to his house that we burnt down. That's over 100 years old. Sorry,
but historically, the fire service does not have a good record in fires in places of worship, and you really you got a couple of seconds, and if you don't get that control of the fire, it becomes an exterior attack. we've lost firefighters in Muncie, Indiana, in a lightweight truss, newer style of church. We lost firefighters in Valley Stream in a synagogue fire. We've lost fires in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the Ebenezer Baptist Church fire. So we need to understand the history of these fires, because we don't need to learn the lesson by having firefighters pay the ultimate price. We need to learn from other people's experiences and then pass those experiences on, so that way we don't do that. And I was well aware of the Muncie fire, and I was certainly well aware of the Ebenezer Baptist Church fire in Philadelphia, in Pittsburgh, when I was operating at that fire, and knew that fire travels in those voids in the church, and we don't know it, and we could have a catastrophic collapse. So we got to know about it. I did not know about the synagogue fire in Valley Stream, in the Zion. I'm going to screw up the name. I don't remember it exactly. Mount Zion, I forgot, but we had members of the Fdny that operated at that, and as young as Boyce and Sano were both at that fire as young firefighters, and I had them actually give me a lot of information about those fires, and actually had Boyce come with me when I taught on fires in places of worship. Just amazing stuff, and it was the Temple Gates of Zion. Thank you. For that help there on that. But yeah, so we got to make sure that Tate and Moran were the two firefighters in that fire, and we should never forget that, and make sure that we always remember those, because we have to learn the lessons. We have to learn and remember the lessons learned that are provided to us from those, and that was what the genesis of the remembrance documents and remembrance bulletins that the Fdny worked on in the last couple of years. So we don't need to kill firefighters to learn lessons. We got to learn lessons from wherever we can learn them from.
No doubt. You're on mute, Coobs.
Let's go to your deputy. You get promoted deputy in 2018, correct? October 18 back to Division 1 you go.
Yeah, so I go to Division 1. So funny, I didn't want to go to Division 1. I wanted to go to the 14th Division. I've had a charmed career, but not a Tom Richardson charmed career, right? Not everybody can pull that off. So I go to the 1st Division, and I am very, very pleasantly surprised by the knowledge of the firefighters in the 1st Division. Those firefighters know their buildings, and they know them well. I would go to every firehouse, and I would ask the junior member, tell me something you need to know about your area, and then I'd ask the senior firefighter if he was correct. And in some places, they would pull out books about their response area. They would explain the history of it, where there used to be roads, why there was fire escapes in the front and not in the rear, or all these different things. And it's tough to be a firefighter in the 1st Division. They have so much that they have to know, that you got to be on your game. You talk about there's no such thing as routine. Well, there's certainly no such thing as routine there. So and they knew it. And then I actually had an opportunity to go back to the 14th Division. Mike Agello, who's the Manhattan Borough Commander, he called me up. He's a sweetheart. He's talk about future of the fire department. He's certainly one of our staff chiefs that I think is the future. And he said, "Hey, I know you've wanted to go back to the 14th. If you want, I don't want to lose you, but now will be the time." I said, "You know what, Mike?" I said, "They need guys that want to be here, and I want to be here because I believe in the companies here and how good they are." And I stayed there, and then it wasn't before long after that I wound up going to the fire academy. But while I was there, had a couple of fires in high-rise office buildings. It's very different when you're the incident commander. I remember the first high-rise fire I have, Steve Marsaw comes in, and so they assign you different positions, and he was going to be, like the search and evacuation sector. And I told him, I said, "No, you're not, Steve. You're staying in the command post because I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and you do." So we did an audible and we changed because he's got so much institutional knowledge of that area that, listen, you don't need to be the smartest person, but you need to know to make sure that you keep people around that have the knowledge, right? Be comfortable knowing what you don't know and know that you don't know it all. And that's the important part.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Don't be afraid. Yeah. So you know what? I had him. You're not going anywhere, bro, because you know what you're doing here. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that was kind of what we did. And then I have a fire in the Oculus. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. A fire in the Oculus?
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
It's down by the.
Yes, that's down by. That's the huge white structure. Right, but that houses a lot of shopping.
It's like a giant underground mall.
Mall. It's where you get access to 6 subways on one side and the PATH train to the other side. So
right by the Freedom Tower. It's right next door to the Freedom Tower.
Oh, all right. I got you.
It's a huge, beautiful structure.
I didn't know what they called it.
And it also connects to stores across the way. It's a huge facility.
So I had a job in there?
We had a job in there. And the job isn't on the top, right? It's in the basement.
Ooh.
It's like 3 levels below the
Oh, Louis loves those.
That's a no-go for Louis right there.
It's like 9 stories below grade. So the first company, right, who knows what they're doing there the most, 10 and 10, they're on another run, of course. So the company that gets in first, they give it 1076. And I'm like, that's interesting. Is it a 1076? Is it a high rise? Well, it's a high rise that goes below ground. And the top of the structure is. So just all the different things that you got to consider. We had to set up relays. They have a repeater system in there. Gracious. Just the routine stuff in there. And luckily 10 and 10 got off that run. And then they came in. And the next thing you know, the chauffeur was there helping me with the communication stuff. But the value of firefighters and fire officers taking the responsibility, the personal responsibility of knowing their area matters, right? And that was that was no different there.
How did you put that fire
down all these levels?
How did you? I was going to say, how would they drag lines down 9 flights? What do you?
No, so they were able to they had standpipe systems down there and at the base level of the Oculus, and then they were able to stretch into the stairwell down the 2 levels. It was a bunch of it was a battery charging area that had spread to some combustibles. It wasn't a lot of fire, but these Manhattan fires in these high rises, because of the migration of the smoke and stuff, you don't need a lot of fire to cause a lot of problems.
Chief, I say that the guys make fun of me because I'm like, going to a basement fire, a ripping basement fire is tough enough and scary enough. Go down like to a triple subcellar, and like you say, in Manhattan, that's a real fire. You know what I mean? That's a real deal stuff. That's as scary as it gets. You know what I mean? And
it's legit.
That's legit. It's right.
High rise office building fires that I was the incident commander at that wound up being, a microwave and 1 cabinet, right? That maybe would be a 1018. I mean, it's a full first alarm assignment.
Yeah.
Because you got smoke migration, you got a lot of things that you have to account for. So,
guys make fun of that, right? They'd be like, "Oh yeah, what is it, a waste paper basket or something?" But like you're saying, they got to go down 9
you've
flights.
Seen it, you realize that you can't downplay them, because if you get behind that, like catch up is a lot different. Just getting people into positions and where they got to go. And the firefighters know that. They get in, they get at it, they go to their positions. They're they're very good with that. And I was impressed with their incredible professionalism of the firefighters and fire officers in the 1st Division. And it's tough because it's tough to get there. But yeah, they do an exceptional job there, and that's why I stayed. They're good.
All right, so tell us how you get to the Rock. What's that all about?
So Richardson says, bro, because when I was in the 4-6, he was trying to get me to come.
Every time I get out,
and I'm like, I'm not leaving the 4-6 until I get promoted. I'm going to suck every second I can out of there. And so I get promoted, and so he has me doing part-time there. And the next thing you know, they move some people around. Some people retire, and they're like, "You want to be the chief of the fire academy?" And I'm like, yeah, like you don't say no to that, like they want me to be part of staff, right? It's the staff is incredibly dedicated. The people have no idea. People have no idea how dedicated and into the job the staff is. In our meetings, it is rare to be in a meeting that we're not discussing what the impact is on the firefighters and EMTs. It's the people that are getting on the fire trucks and ambulances that are always top of priority, and people don't realize that.
I wouldn't think they would realize that. No,
our staff gets it. Our staff is dedicated to taking care of and facilitating what we do in the field, and to see that through COVID, to see that when there's a new policy, a new procedure, even on an off day, right? So I was off today, and I probably answered 40 emails. I definitely was on the phone for several hours, because that's what you do, because you're trying to support what's happening in the fire department. And even though you're off, you're never off. And you go there because you want to give back to the job. The job, I am blessed. 30 years, just over 30 years. I've had an amazing career. I've worked with amazing people, and the people I work with on staff are incredibly hardworking people. I would say they're working harder now than they have ever worked in their career. They may not be putting fires out in the sense of going into buildings, but you got to know that they're dedicated and certainly taking care of all people and facilitating what we do in the field.
I think Galvin kind of echoed that when we had him on. He said the same thing.
Yeah, and you think about that, and what are we doing, right? We're just building off of the previous generations. We stand on the shoulders of the previous generations, and our job is to just try and make it a little bit better and be good stewards for the job and make it where our people are protected and best supported. That's what we're doing, right? It's and when I went to training and at the fire academy, there was already robust systems in place because of the folks that were there, because of Galvin and Mooney, and Garrity, and there's so many people that have contributed to that. And it's just our generation. It's my generation's time to just make sure that we're being good stewards and building from that. And that's what we did. So they put me, congratulations, you're the chief of the fire academy. And then we shut down training 2 weeks later because of the pandemic. And I'm like, wow, great. I was coming on to I had an all-star team, and I knew it because I was working with training. And I'm like, wow, this is going to be great. That's like coming in to the Yankees right before they win the World Series, right? I just got to steer them. No, then we shut down training, and I'm like, we're not training it at all right now. We got to do something to fix that. And that's when we started looking at technology with the couple.
Yeah, that was good, man.
And that's when we started looking at the remote tactical and all the different things that we could do, because we should never not be training. We should never shut down training. We must always advocate for training for the safety of our people, because you could cut training budgets. You could put people back in the field. You could do all that, and you will save money in the short term. But eventually, the cracks in the foundation will show, and you will pay it back in line of duty injuries and deaths and civilian injuries and deaths. And you can see it in other places when they don't value training. You should demand high fidelity, frequent training. Don't let anybody shortchange your training. It doesn't matter if you're in the biggest fire department in the country or you're in a one station or one place department. There's so much stuff online. Even you could train with yourself.
Yeah.
But we got to make sure that we're doing good, because the time when the tones drop, the time to prepare is over. And you want to make sure that you gave it every shot that you were ready to go and you didn't. And it wasn't that sometimes despite our dedication, our training, everything that we do, we don't get the desired outcome. Sometimes people lose their lives. It should never be because you weren't ready. It should never be because of a lack of preparation.
What was that sign that they had the rock for the longest time? Don't let it. What is it?
Oh,
Yeah, no man's ghost come back to say
back.
your training let you down.
Yep.
You should. It should never be about that. It should be, that sometimes it just doesn't go our way. But it's got.
It's an unpredictable field. Fire is an unpredictable thing. You can do everything right sometimes, and just.
What was the that news when we came out to do the rock series with you, Chief? You know what I liked the newsletter that you.
That's what he was talking about.
Well, I'm just saying, when he had he was
tips,
doing the
tips from
history
training, which are now called tips from training and safety.
I thought that was great,
figure.
man. That was
How'd
great.
that happen? Tips and training.
Well,
and
so
safety.
it's funny. So we changed the name this year. So Mike Myers, the previous chief of safety, was the chief of safety for 4.5 years. An absolute all-star, a rock star, did a great job there. I spoke to him almost daily, because training, safety, and operations, right? That triangle, you're always in, everything is interrelated. So we had near miss, we had a couple of different reporting systems that we said, listen, Mike, training will take that over, so you don't have to concentrate on that so much. And we put out the tips from training. Where I failed is we should have called it initially tips from training and safety, because they were always tips from training and safety. So we switched the name and we put out a tip from training this year to explain why we changed the name of it. It's just to better reflect the partnership of who's doing it. But Mike Myers and his team, for all of the years that we've been doing it, have been an important part of our tips from training.
Oh, it wasn't just like wear your coat. It was the one that we discussed on the show that time was the diesel train that struck and killed the fireman. It was on the tracks, even though the power was off. Right. So all of the history, like that's one thing that Kevin and I have been getting into, is all of the history that we have on the job. A lot of people don't even know, unless it's just a couple of years from when they got on. They don't know 20 years before they got on or 30 years before they got on, something similar to that.
So January 6th of 1970, Carmelo Pusia was working in 53 engine and was killed by a train putting out a rubbish fire. He was a probie, and we dedicated our Building 14 to him not too long ago. We were supposed to do it for the 50th anniversary and had the family there. And like the guys in that facility that worked there did an amazing job getting the building all ready to be dedicated to him. His widow and his a lot of his family, his daughters, were all there. They came to this, and it's just an amazing tribute to him. And like the generational impact, the reverberation of a line of duty death, it lasts for a long, long time. And the guys in our subway and extrication, led by Captain Brendan Connolly, they just took it upon themselves to do this. And our Building 14 is now dedicated to Carmelo Pusia. We didn't have an AUC 207 for subway operations when this happened. And now we do. And it's super important. And, the family's now friends with them. I saw them not too long ago. We just did, we have a great relationship with the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation. And they put out a 2-part podcast on the Carmelo Pusia and his family. And also, so the second part is about what the FDNY has done. So we evaluate and we adjust based on all of these, our recommendations from fatal fire reports. And even like with research, right? We have a great relationship with our research partners, both from whether it's University of Miami, University of Arizona, all different places when we're talking about cancer in the fire service. But we also have a very good relationship with UL. Dan Majkowski from UL was here yesterday helping us with some projects. all of the UL research that has been done, we have evaluated all of it and combined it with our experience. And when necessary, we have changed our procedures based on that. Whether it's wind impacted fires, whether it's search, whether it's stream operation, whatever it is, we have evaluated all of them. You guys know, right? Our books change constantly.
Yep. And we just had Paulie Rogers on the other day talking about the UL with those batteries now, with the lithium ion batteries and how they're doing all of that. So
yeah, we have a bulletin on that. Hazmat 20. Paulie Rogers is great. And you talk about subject matter expert on this. That's all critical stuff. So we have a remembrance bulletin out on Carmelo Pusia. So we have our remembrance bulletins and a remembrance wall. We took those and blew them up and put them on a wall.
That's great.
At the Fire Academy. And that book is in print right now. And every firehouse is going to get a book from it.
That's great.
And every firehouse that is one of their members is featured in this book, we're going to give them, we bought $35,000 worth of picture frames last year, and we're going to give them a blown up copy of that to hang in their firehouse. So everybody that comes in their firehouse remembers.
Knows about, right. That's great.
Yeah. So John Davies, the battalion chief now, he's been working with me for a while. He's very helpful with the tips from training and with the remembrance bulletins. And, we put out 161 tips from training last year, some of them while we were still on scene of the incident. One the other day, I've gone to 2 false alarms as the chief of safety so far. And on my way home from that, I crafted a tip from training about some of the things I saw there. And, we had that out the next day, because if it's timely and topical, people want to see it. Right? We don't just put it out because it's noise. We put it out because we want you to learn from whatever it is. And that's important.
Well, I think it's important on the job. How many times, you would hear something a month later or 2 months later, you're like, I didn't even know that happened. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, you wouldn't even have any clue. And it would be something important, like you said, like something safety wise that you probably could have known, that you should know, that happened to somebody on the job, and you didn't even know what the hell happened. And the remembrance bulletins, that was born out of, Timmy Keenan and the Elmhurst Eagles, when I got there, I'm told it started by him, but every tour, they would read from the last alarm book. And Gary Ubanowitz, who used to work for the museum, just an amazing historian of the fire department, him and a bunch of other people put this book together, and it chronologizes all the line of duty deaths in the FDNY. So they would read from that. But we wanted to say, okay, that wasn't in date order. So the remembrance bulletin is in date order, and we hope that our members will take that and read from it like that at roll call every tour, because it starts the tour off with remembering our people, remembering why we're there, and the lessons that they provide us.
Right. I got to say, Chief, we were really impressed, both of us. We talked about it a couple of times, Louis and I, when we went down to do the segment on the Rock. And the things that you put in place there to remind guys, from the names of the streets to the Proby Pavilion to the telephone company wall that you have down there now. You did really an amazing job. You could tell that your whole heart and soul was into it. And these are all.
You can't have pride if you don't know your history, right? What's more important than, if you're in a place, in a firehouse, and you know that it has a good reputation and good, that's going to be prideful for you, right? You're going to want to do more. You're going, like you say all the time, it's going to make you want to do, when you were doing the push-ups, the chin-ups, and Coops couldn't do them, so you did them. And, you said it's going to make you do more, knowing that it's 9/11 steel, right? It's going to make you do more. You're going to have more oomph. It's
important to know where you're coming from, where you came from, to know where you're going now, and to set the course for where you want to be, right? Look to where the puck is going to be, not where it is. And kind of move in that direction to where we want to be. And again, we have a great team, right? And we just built off of that. Like-minded people that that care about the job and care about moving us forward. And that's, that works. And we're able to get several of these projects done, and we decorate with a purpose. One of the things I wanted to do is I want an immersive learning experience. I want to make sure that that anywhere you're walking around the fire academy, that there's something that you can learn from. And so we have the remembrance wall. We have the memorial to we have the memorial up for the New York telephone fire, right? Which the anniversary is February 27th. So, which, and kudos to you guys, because I knew a lot about the New York Telephone Company fire. But it wasn't until I heard your Getting Salty episode with Danny Noonan that I learned that there was no memorial, that there was nothing for them.
We couldn't even believe that when he
I was
came on.
floored.
We couldn't even believe it.
And I've read so much about that fire, whether it's from In the Mouth of the Dragon, Toxics in a Plastic Age. So there he is, right? So that's him back in the day. Just this Saturday, I spent a good part of Saturday with him.
Hey, all right.
And there he is, right? That's this Saturday. We went to Bobby G, Uncle Bob, a bunch of nicknames that they had for him. He was the other real advocate for that fire, and they let me know that he passed away. So I gave Dan a ride home. So we pulled up in front of his apartment, and I said, "We have a couple mutual friends. The new editor of Fire Engineering, David Rhodes." He said we were talking about him, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to snap a picture and send it to him." So I snapped that picture and sent it to him when we stopped, and he's like, "You want to come up? You want to come up, have some water, hang out?" I'm like, I gotta go, but it was important to me that I was there because I appreciate the work that Dan does. I appreciate what Bob did as an advocate for that, because the New York telephone fire with the PCV, with all the different plastics and stuff, PVC that was in that building, was a precursor to what we see today at fires. The modern fire environment, different. So I was honored that I was there. And when one of the family members spoke, they made mention how it was a highlight for him to be at the fire academy, to be there and get a ribbon and see the memorial and have everybody do a standing ovation for them and cheer for them. And his cancer had been in remission. He had vocal cord cancer years ago, and it came back and wound up, and then he wound up passing recently. But we have to, that decorating with a purpose and making sure that our firefighters understand February 27th and the New York telephone fire, and understand that today's fires, the fire environment is different. We've changed our procedures on firefighting. Every firefighter knows ventilation limited fire, flow path, heat release rate, energy, all these things we know, bidirectional flow, unidirectional flow, neutral plane. But do we understand how interrelated it all is to cancer on the fire service today? Did we change our procedures? Have we changed our procedures to make sure we're best protecting ourselves from cancer in the fire service? And I am very vocal on that. I'm very passionate about that. I've been in the chair of our contamination reduction work group since 2017. And quite frankly, I'm tired of burying my friends.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing that you got a couple of good-looking guys to do a commercial for the first responders health and safety tip, right? I mean, see,
we couldn't get better than you guys. Let me tell you.
You could definitely get better. But
and we got one set. We got one set for tonight too. How do you like them apples? Look at that.
Do you?
Yep.
All right. I love it.
That was, Kevin and I talk. That was pretty special to us when we had him on the show, and that kind of got the ball rolling with you and the guys at the Rock, and then Chief Richardson and all that stuff. And then, he was calling us and texting us, and then, you and Kevin were talking back and forth. And then when we found out that was going to happen, and we had some little hand in that, was really a special thing for us to.
You had a big hand in it. If you don't know, you don't know, right? And I knew a lot about the fire, but didn't know that there wasn't a memorial until I listened to that episode. So, no, thank you guys. I appreciate that. They forever will be. That fire will live forever in the FDNY, and it should, right? Our members need.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
he was ecstatic. I mean, to watch him. I mean, how long was he doing that for? For years, right? He was doing that for years.
For a couple of decades. It's unbelievable.
For years.
Yeah. Certainly, I was blown away at how long he had been doing it. Yeah.
Teamwork, baby. Teamwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Teamwork. All right, so one of your last stops here, Deputy Assistant Chief Acting chief of training. So that was
Yeah, so I was the acting chief of training for about 13 months,
Mhm.
and then they made the switch in December, and that's when I went to safety. So a lot of the stuff I was doing that, a lot of the stuff for training and for the fire academy.
Mhm.
We had a great team there, whether it was Brian Fink, Brendan McSweeney. Now we have Chuck Downey there, who's excellent. They just named Tom Correo. He's the chief of training. He's got a lot of time on the job as well. And yeah, now I'm in safety. But a lot of those initiatives that are going to continue. Again, great work. Are the work that our video production unit does. Jerry Perillo and his team down there. They're just so many good people, both uniform and our civilian people. Our tactical training with Frank Rossiano and having John Leemeister down there helping out. Chuck Downey. Just again, it's about the team and who we have working for us that understand the mission and want to get the job done. And the stuff that we do, all the props that we have. We just got a building construction prop from Bud Henkel's down in Philadelphia, and a water mechanics prop from UL. We could do more hands-on drilling and kind of show the why behind some of our procedures, and it's it's how we need to be training, especially training on new probies, right? Because they don't want to be PowerPointed all day long.
Right.
Is there probies in there now?
They
Is
just
there a lot of
graduated,
classes
I
in
think.
there?
No, they just graduated. I'm not sure when the next one's coming in yet. I don't think they've. I'm not sure if they've picked a date yet for that, but yeah. We're the Costco of the fire service, right? We don't put in 10 probies, we put in 300.
Right.
So
Costco.
everything's bigger at the fire academy.
Yeah.
And the EMS academy too, right? So we just graduated a class of 130 EMTs. We just had that ceremony yesterday.
How
Tank, pull up that question somebody had about EMS. Can you grab that question from the super chat? Super Tank.
Yes.
how is the rank now, Chief? Is it all right? Let's do this question first.
Let's see why so separate and out of touch between the entities of EMS and FDNY and FDNY. Maybe the future of integrating EMS and fire over the next 10 to 20 years in the FDNY. You see that happening?
Yeah, well, so I would say that so between fire and EMS, we're not out of touch. We communicate regularly with the folks, with our EMS counterparts. Certainly, especially on the staff level, we talk all the time, and at the commander levels. It's hard because the way EMS is structured, there's not enough room in firehouses. The infrastructure can't support ambulances in firehouses and that type of stuff. It's very difficult to do that. But there's always room. There's always room for improvement along those lines. We do joint training initiatives. Some of the professional development classes that we've had at the Fire Academy recently, we have more coming up next month. Are all things that we certainly that bring everybody together, our EMS, fire, and civilian employees. So there's still room for improvement, but we are better, and hopefully we'll be.
I think it's come a long way. I mean, you got those rescue paramedics now. You have some ambulances in firehouses.
A couple of new ones, right?
It's a promotion exam now. I think it works a lot better. It's come a long way.
It's definitely better.
Yeah.
Having the ambulances in the firehouse isn't. That doesn't. That doesn't mean integration, right?
Yeah.
It just means that you're in the same quarters, but that's not necessarily the answer. I think at some point there's got to be a reevaluation of having them sitting on street corners, stuff like that. There's some things that certainly could be adjusted, and and those topics come up often. We simply don't have our head in the sand. Those are topics that come up regularly. We regularly meet together as a staff. We'll be meeting with our, we meet constantly. So we'll be meeting later this week as well. So may not be the best of answers, but it's unfortunately it's still a work in progress, but it is top of mind to getting it better.
Amen, brother.
What was I going to say?
Am I still
How are the
going?
ranks in firefighter now? Are they behind? Are they?
So we're behind. We need firefighters and we need EMTs and civilian employees as well. So there's a lot of civilian employee openings. If you go to join FDNY, you could see a lot of those. There's a lot of positions open right now.
Mike.
Yeah, Mike, that's right. So there's I'm pretty sure if you look at it, there's a video editor or
Look at that, Mike. Look at that. Move to the
Yeah.
city, bro. Move to Queens.
Yeah. So good stuff that that we got going on.
Yeah.
Come
All right,
be
so
part of the team.
Ruffy, do you want to he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fires that we could definitely get in depth with. You want to have him on for a second show if the chief wants to, or
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about that, Chief? We talk about these 6 fires you have here. Would you like to come back on, or?
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it's it's probably better that way because rather than
I don't want to skip on these
to rush through. To be
honest.
honest.
They look like great jobs too. So then we will push
we'll
to that.
Do more of a back in the day. Maybe we'll do like a safety. There's some learning tips on these, I would imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot of lessons to reinforce and learn.
Oh, we can
do
hit the old
whole show just on that.
Call to the bullpen. You know what I mean?
Call to the bullpen.
But right now, I think you know what somebody said it earlier on. We should have just put the chief on a rolling clip of the old school tip of the day because everything that he said tonight was an old school tip of the day. If you guys were
He's
listening.
always teaching.
He's always teaching. But first, before we get to that old school tip of the day, we have to please get to the First Responder Center for Excellent old school tip of the day. Oh, and there you go. So the First Responder Center for Excellence is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to protecting the lives and livelihoods of first responders. Their education and research initiatives aim to bring greater awareness and understanding to the challenges to the health, safety, and well-being of firefighters, EMS personnel, and other first responders. They are an affiliate of the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. And today's old school health and safety tip is, are you ready? Use your SCBA during overhaul. The actions you take today to best protect your health will pay dividends long into your future. Your future self will thank you. And we thank Chief Leeb for letting us be part of this. And we say it all the time, man. You got it. You said it how many times today? The fires are different today. There's so many more toxic things in the fires, and not taking care of yourself. Like I've said this repeatedly. My brother died early. My father died early. They maybe collected their pension for 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, whatever it was. You got to take care of yourself. We
could do a whole show just on cancer prevention and what we could be doing. And the steps you take today, your future self will thank you. I know I've heard you guys say that many times on the show. And
as soon as you retire, I mean, for us, during our time on the job, you didn't wear your mask when you were overhauling, right? It was kind of like passage, rite of passage. You had to, do that, and now that I'm retired, I'm like shaking my head for all of those times,
Well, you know how the chief said you could be aggressive, but without being dangerous, right?
Chief Daly said balls with
maybe
brains.
we should change it. Maybe we should change. You could be salty without being dirty.
Balls
right?
with brains. I like that.
Oh, this guy? I like that. Yeah. Who do I got to call to make the recommendation for chief of department? Give me the number. I'll call him right now.
What does he get? 10% for that?
We have a deep bench on staff, so we are in good shape.
Yeah, well, they should watch this show. I can tell you that much.
We are in good shape.
All right, but right now it's your time. It's your old school tip of the day. It's the you ready, Hank? Tank. I called him Hank again. Tank, you ready?
Yep.
The old school tip of the day.
Day.
All right, Chief.
Outstanding. Hey, so here it is. Stay learnable. Training protects you and your loved ones and those that we're sworn to protect. Make sure you're into the job and you know your job and what you're doing, but also be comfortable in knowing what you don't know. It keeps you grounded and humble, and both are critically important. I have a second old school tip of the day because I've heard several people give 2. And it's for the new officer. And when it comes to the health and safety of firefighters, and I got this from Richard Gassaway, he's got a pretty good book out there. And he says, it's not my job to be popular. It's my job to keep my employees safe. And if they don't like the decisions I make, they could hate me for the balance of their long and healthy lives. Brothers and sisters, we got to do better. We got to protect ourselves. We got to protect ourselves from fireground contamination, from dying early, from preventable causes. That's the bottom line.
They could hate me for their long life. I like that.
For the balance of their long and
That's
healthy
it.
lives.
And listen, you're going to make decisions, no matter what you do, you're going to make decisions that not everybody's going to like. That's just how it is. And that makes a good boss, obviously, if you're not making decisions based on what people think all the time.
Nobody wants a slug, right? So
right.
I want the guy that's drilling. I want the guy that's looking out for me. I don't want the guy that decides he wants to be in Iraq all day.
No, I agree.
So, hey, I got to give a couple of shout outs to Lloyd Mitchell, to my buddy Steve and Kevin Burns that are probably listening, to Mike. So Mike, who was the Elmhurst buff who'd come to the firehouse, he was always there. He moved to the Carolinas. He texted me earlier that he's going to be listening. And man, I got to make sure I shout out to Driver Joe, who it might be past his bedtime. He's there. He is.
Hey, I know Joe. Yeah, I know Joe.
Yeah, my buddy Carl, who I know is listening, and my buddy Ronzoni and Steve S. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name. He's told me it a couple of times, but several of the people that watch this show all the time that are just great people from different parts of our great country, and it's just an honor to be on here.
Joe Wiz, that's right. It's Wiz.
Joe
right?
Wiz, yep.
I couldn't remember what his last name.
I could do a whole show just on Joe Wiz.
Oh my God!
A chauffeur in 151 when I was in the 4.6, and like all chauffeurs, chauffeur's a critically important position. And the chief gets there, right, and he goes up to the chauffeur and he wants to know, hey, you've been here. What do you see? What's going on? Where is everybody? Anybody up there yet? And they're able to give you so much information, not only to the officer that's in the truck in a new area, but for the chauffeur on the pedestal that knows what's going on. I'd be like, hey, Joe, what do you got going on? Chief, I got, 151 is in here. There, and he knows where everybody is. He's almost like the quarterback before we get there.
Firefighter Joe Wiz.
Now all of a sudden chauffeurs are important. Now all of a sudden it's an important.
Listen, I just don't want it to be me.
You can't be anti-chauffeur forever.
You used to do your Herman Munster. I don't want to. I'm not gonna drive.
But especially the truck chauffeur and the importance that he has in front of that building. It cannot be overstated how important that member knowing everything that they always know what's going on. You ask them and they're the person. They got it,
All right, so I'll be calling you tomorrow to reschedule for the next show.
Yeah, we actually have a few dates coming up, so we could take a peek.
Yeah.
But I got so my man Tank, is your mic working, bro?
Yeah, it's on. I'm here. I'm good.
All right.
Smiling.
That guy, my buddy Tank, is inspiring firefighters all over the place, right? To be healthy, to be fit, to do the right thing, to love the job, right? I was down at a fire conference in Pensacola with him, and it was the first time I actually met him face to face, but I had actually known about him.
You thought he was a myth,
and he's
Sasquatch or something.
Yeah. So he does this walk. I think he's got a picture of us. Yeah. There we go.
Look at those guys.
Some of the boys that went for the early and girls that went for the early morning walk with him, because what he's doing, he's inspiring firefighters. It matters. Like I mentioned earlier, everybody has a place in the fire service, and what they're doing matters. And my man Tank is right up there with them.
Thank you, Chief. That means the world to me, man. I appreciate it.
Somebody get him a hanky. Good job, Tank. Your first show tonight, good job.
Thank you.
Hold on. There, that's for Hank. That's for Tanky.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Good job, Tanky. You don't have all that nervous look. All right, so what do we got on Monday? We have a show this weekend. We will be out at the Nassau Coliseum for the Long Island.
I don't think
Trade
we have
show?
anything for Monday. We have Chief Turner is coming on in 2 weeks.
Oh, one of the best.
One of the best.
And
One of my
I
favorite.
forgot to even mention him. He was the other chief in the 4-6.
4-6.
Oh, that's
correct.
right.
Yeah, when I was in 324. That guy, he meets you once, he never forgets your name.
Nope. Yep.
He's awesome.
Always had some
Can't wait to
knowledge
see
to
him.
impart. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot to mention him. Sorry,
all right.
Chief. Commish.
That's all right.
Right.
So we'll be this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, out at the Nassau Coliseum. Come out and see us. I know a couple of guys. Fat Daddy will be out there. I think the Chief is going out there.
I'll be
right?
there. Yeah, I'm doing a
Sweet.
class on Saturday afternoon as well.
All
so.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Rob Procaccini, please bring your old lady. He's coming, so he'll bring
Is
his old
Frankie
lady.
coming out?
Frankie Suffin's coming.
Frankie said he's coming.
I forget. I think that crazy
Big Ray McGuire coming? He's got
Big Ray McGuire. I think that batshit crazy Milner's coming.
Yeah, I talked to Mike.
We got a couple of good guys. So again, Chief, can't thank you enough. Stay on as we leave the
don't
audience
hang
here.
up.
Don't hang up.
It's always a pleasure, man. It's always
get you back on.
inspirational. You really,
Yeah.
if I was on the
I
job,
appreciate it. You
would
guys are
listen.
great. Like I said, I know you a long time, and it's just catching up with old friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
That's what it is. Tell Kleehouse that, will you? Go catch up with a couple of buddies, will you? All right, guys. We'll see you over the weekend, or we'll see you Monday.
We got some housekeeping stuff to do real
what do you
quick.
got?
Got to remind some people some things. If you're listening to our show only, we're on all the players, iTunes, podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere that you can find your audio podcast, you can find us. If you're watching the show, you know this. If you're listening to the show, find us on YouTube at the Getting Salty Experience, the yellow logo with the mustache man. It's a beautiful place to be. A lot of good videos, not just podcast interviews like tonight. There's some other video spotlight ons back in the day, drilling at the kitchen table, our 2 cents, plenty of things there, plenty of things to go learn and see. Whether you want to be entertained, hear some old school stories, or you want to learn something, there's something for everybody, every level of the job. If you're new to the job, there's something to go learn. If you're retired for the job, there's something that's going to help you to stay relevant and to feel relevant because you still matter to us. We love and appreciate you. If you're here with us tonight, if you're watching the videos later, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Those are all free and they take minimal time. You've heard us talk about the super chat, but if you're watching the show after it's live, hit us up on the super thanks. We appreciate that too. Every little bit helps us so we can keep doing this, keep putting our time, effort, and energy to putting out great quality content for all of our viewers and all of the Salty family. We are thankful for that. The man in the lower left-hand corner does it day in and day out on the Instagram and on the Facebook, Salty Dog Inc., and on the Getting Salty Facebook page, curating great posts. With the way he words his things and the pictures that he posts is beautiful and awesome. Just really does it justice. He does great by us. We're thankful for that. And again, the old school, OG, original way is gettingsaltyapparel.com. Throw out a few shekels, get you some cool t-shirts like you see in the video that we showed at the beginning of tonight's show. If you're listening, go catch that. McBob did a great job doing that up for us. All the different things you can buy on Getting Salty Apparel or at gettingsaltyapparel.com. That's that. And I think that is all the news. Oh, we got one more. The Getting Salty fans page on Facebook. It's a wonderful place for all of us to get together, share great things, be respectful, be right. Don't post nonsense. Post things that are relevant, that matter, stories from across the country, across the world, as long as it brings something to the table. Do it to it. And that is all the news that is fit to
Chief,
print.
I just want to say
evening.
Mark Giannini is in the chat.
He's in there.
Mark's another good guy. Yeah, he lives down south. Another guy I worked with. Yeah, super good guy. And I mentioned Rick Welliver right earlier, the guy that got me. I see his sons are definitely in the job. I see Corey Welliver is in the super chat. I see. So
thank you, Corey. Sweet. And you know what, Tank? Not only does he grant on Instagram, he kills a hell of a defenseless animal, bro. He is really good at killing defenseless animals. Good job, Ruffy. Ducks, deer. If it's sitting there in nature, mind its own goddamn business, Louis will blow a hole in it like nobody's business.
And by the way, Tankus is running the TikTok now. We got TikTok, and he's knocking it out of the park. He really is. I've tried to post a couple of those up on our stories on the fan page, on the Instagram and the Facebook, but he's doing a good job with that. So take a look at that too, the TikTok.
Chief, thank you for your time. Thank you for being the first. Look at you, trendsetter. You path.
You
just good. You are.
Yeah, I'll see you guys on Saturday.
Yes,
he still looks like he's 30. The son of my bun.
I know, right? All right. Now I'll see you over the weekend. Till then, stay low and go.
All right, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you at the big one. Thanks, Chief.
Our family, stay blessed. We love y'all. Thank y'all. See you on the fire floor.
Fantastic.